are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Happy hump day to you, my little buddy.
Happy hump day, Crudy. Always a pleasure to join you on the people's airwaves.
Yes, the pleasure
is all mine. I'm sure it is.
And there's the audience. Hopefully they will enjoy this big show as well, Tom. And we've got a big show, so let's get to it. Found this little poll at the Journal Sentinel. Original source, the USA Today. Susan Page. Some polling, Dom. I think it sheds light. Let's share it with the audience. The headline, most Americans, plural. There's more than one of us.
Are you sure?
Although one guy thinks there's only one important one.
If you insult Trump, you insult America. Therefore, Trump equals America. That's Trumpster math.
Dominic, the headline, I'll try to get it right this time. Most Americans call Trump's tweets targeting 4 congresswomen un-American. Un-American. Well, I agree, but let's get to the polling briefly. A clear majority of Americans say President Trump's tweets targeting 4 minority congresswomen were un-American, according to a new USA Today Ipsos poll. But most Republicans say they agree with those comments. An illustration of the nation's sharp partisan divide on issues of patriotism and race. More than 2/3 of those aware of the controversy, 68%, called Trump's tweets offensive. Amongst Republicans alone, however, 57%, that's 57%, Dom, said they agreed with the tweets that told the congresswomen to go back to their original countries. And the third strongly agreed with them. 4 lawmakers are American citizens. 3 were born in the United States. So to get all that amongst Republicans, 57% agreed with the tweets, go back to wherever you came from.
And a third strongly agreed. Very strongly agree with you, go back to Africa.
Dominic, that finding may help explain the reluctance GOP leaders, are there any GOP leaders, and most GOP members of Congress to castigate the president for tweets and comments in recent days targeting the congresswoman. Outspoken progressives were among his sharpest critics on Capitol Hill. Only 4 Republicans joined the House Democrats Tuesday in passing a resolution condemning Trump's comments as racist.
Crudy, that said, the dispute could be costly for Trump among some key voters in his bid for a second term. 3/4 of the women polled called his tweets offensive. Independents, by more than 2-1, said they were un-American. Overall, Crudy, 59% called the president's tweets un-American.
You can leave.
I guess 59% of American citizens should just what? Leave? Let's just leave. We disagree.
You can leave right now.
We can go to hell, right? We can just get the hell out.
America, love her or leave her, Dom.
This is quite stunning. Once again, I think we need to reiterate these numbers. Among Republicans alone, 57% agree, and a third strongly agree, and overall, 59% called the president's tweets un-American.
All they do is complain.
Yeah.
But, you got to be careful because the 59%, those are what, Dems and reasonable centrist and, the progressives and the Republicans. Of them, 59% call these tweets un-American. But you take just the Republican sample and 57% say, hell yeah, we're racist too. Dom, I saw a little meme on social media. I'd like to share it briefly.
Yeah.
First and foremost, it was former Speaker Paul Ryan. You remember the old P90X photos?
Oh, terrible.
When he made an ass of himself wearing the red. I mean, it's okay to wear a red hat, I think. but don't wear a baseball cap backwards.
And he was working out, right? He was very proud that he was doing like a bro sesh. He had some curls going on. He's smiling at the camera. Very lean.
Well, I think he skips the leg work, and
Wow.
based on the penciled neck, obviously, it doesn't do any sort of neck strengthening.
But
Dominic,
really
this
proud
meme,
of what we've been able to do.
Yeah.
this meme that I saw said, you know what? There's only two things Republicans hate. They hate being accused of being racist,
Well, of course.
and of course, they hate black people.
No, they don't hate black people. Just 50% of them think that if black people or, people of color criticize this country, 57% of Republicans agree that they should go back to their original countries. And a third of Republicans strongly agree with that sentiment.
I'm not sure if I agree with the way you framed it, though, in this regard.
Why is that?
These women aren't against their country. They're not against the United States. They're against that schmuck leading the country. They're against Donald Trump. And to be against the president is certainly not the same as hating your country as they've been accused. And you would think this new polling might shut the man up for a little bit. Hell no. Hell no. He had more to say today. He had more to tweet. And I think we got to get there next time. Talking about Trump, the un-American president.
You have this piece? I think this is the raw story that you are referring to. Trump continues attacks, calls Dem Congresswomen the four horsewomen of the apocalypse. Yes, a chance to play some Metallica. I'm so excited.
Dominic, that phrase was first coined about the Congresswoman by white nationalist Fox News host Laura Ingraham.
According to the raw story.
Well, it's a reprint of a piece from the new civil rights movement, David Badash. President Donald Trump is not letting go on his latest obsession, the four progressive Democratic freshman congresswomen who are also women of color. In an early Wednesday morning rant, a little hump day, early morning toilet tweeting,
you gotta get through the day, man.
Trump quoted Louisiana Republican Senator John Kennedy, a chameleon who likes to appear as a moderate on MSNBC, then take off his mask and reveal himself as strongly conservative. Trump, quoting Kennedy, called the four congresswomen whack jobs and the four horsewomen of the apocalypse, a phrase white nationalist Fox News host Laura Ingraham coined to attack the progressive Democrats when they first were elected in November. Dom, we've got the sound of Kennedy, do we not?
We do. We have some sound of Senator John Kennedy. We'll start at number 85, Brian, talking about these congresswomen being whack jobs.
I'm not apologizing. I do think they're whack jobs. I don't mean any disrespect, but maybe they think I'm a whack job, but I think they're whack jobs.
You don't mean any disrespect. Hey, you're a douchebag, but hey, I mean it with all possible respect. Senator John Kennedy.
That's whack.
Whack.
So anyways, Trump went out and Trump did a little tweeting, and I'm going to quote this. Here's what I believe he is attributed to having said, Dom. In America, if you hate our country, you are free to leave. The simple fact of the matter is the four congresswomen think that America is wicked in its origins. They think that America is even more wicked now that we're all racist and evil. No, just you mostly, and like 57% of Republicans. But I read on. They're entitled to their opinion. They're Americans. No, I'm entitled to my opinion. And I just think they're left-wing cranks. They're the reason that there are directions on the shampoo bottle, and we should ignore them. The squad has moved the Democratic Party substantially, all caps, left, and they are destroying the Democratic Party. Why do you care? I'm appalled that so many of our presidential candidates are falling all over themselves to try and agree with the four horsewomen of the apocalypse. I'm entitled to say that they're whack jobs.
I'm not apologizing. I do think they're whack jobs. Trump
finished his rant by claiming falsely House Democrats are getting nothing done. Meanwhile, the truth is the House has passed 325 bills, but the Grim Reaper, Mitch McConnell, is refusing to allow almost any of them.
Oh, so therefore the Dems in the House are getting nothing done because my guy in the Senate won't bring anything up.
the obstructionist, Mitch McConnell.
Senator John Kennedy, again, this is Trump. Of course, Trump has no original thoughts, reiterating what Kennedy said about the wickedness of America. Let's do cut number 86, if you would, please, Brian.
I think they believe that America was wicked in its origins. I think they believe that America is even more wicked today.
Sounds familiar. Just what Trump tweeted out. But let's not forget, and Fancy Brian, you reminded this. Who is that Republican who ran for Senate? Oh, yeah, Roy Moore. Then now, did he think America was wicked?
Crime, corruption, immorality, abortion, sodomy, sexual perversion sweep our land. I want to see virtue and morality returned to our country.
Shoot.
I thought he was enumerating the list of a Good Friday night at the Salvia household.
Let's keep going. The wicked Roy Moore, unlike the wicked Donald Trump or the wicked John Kennedy.
I want it freed from political correctness and social experimentation, transgender troops in our bathroom, and inclusiveness.
Well, we can't have any of those transgender troops in our bathrooms now, can we?
But Dominic, Trump didn't stop at tweeting. Trump had something to say out there in the world, and he said it. Despite the polling, he's an un-American president. I mean, when you got nearly 60% of Americans chastising you, when they've held a vote on the House floor, and I get it, it was mostly a party line vote, but even 4 Republicans and a former Republican voted to censure this president for his racism. Well, I would say Trump's probably just getting started, because this is an effective line of attack for him, so he would think, Dom. And if this is about electoral politics, if this is strategery on the man's behalf, 4 horsewomen of the apocalypse.
Bring it. I'm ready.
That's to especially scare off the evangelical types, right?
I guess.
He'd be better off calling them socialist, communist. Come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocates. We sort of admire the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Dom aspires to ride a little horse himself. Come back. More Devils. Phone lines open. 844-967-2789.
We now have a president of the United States who is a racist.
Explain that, because my voters don't get it.
That's whack.
I'm not apologizing. I do think they're whack jobs.
This guy is a racist.
If you're not happy here, you can leave.
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Transgender.
Got unwanted pests in your home or business? Call Get Rid Pest Control at 414-368-0696. State licensed and certified with over 20 years experience, Get Rid Pest Control guarantees their work in the removal of common household pests, including mice, rats, ants, roaches, spiders, centipedes, and bedbugs. Humane trapping and removal of larger pests as well. Unmarked vehicles available upon request. 24-hour emergency service available. Call Get Rid Pest Control today for your free estimate. 414-368-0696. If you got it, we'll get it.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern. This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. In the 7 years that Crudy and I have been doing the show, we have never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now, advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Real Resistance Radio. Market your products or services, get your message out, join the resistance. Call us at 414-635-0872. That's 414-635-0872, or go to realresistanceradio.com.
5 9s, your local single-source IT solutions provider, specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. That means it could be you, your best man, your worst man. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org to know where you stand. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
We are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube and on Facebook. A little less sexier today on Facebook, perhaps.
Come on, man.
And we're also on the phones at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I got the Facebook live stream. I've stolen the live stream. I've appropriated it here in the Broadcast Bunker 2.0 because the fine guest is joining me later, about 4 o'clock. We've got Batman, Matt Rothschild, Executive Director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. He'll be standing right here, and he'll join us 4:05. Going to tell us perhaps a little inside baseball on the now departed Justice John Paul Stevens. Apparently he and Matt's dad practiced law together once upon a time.
In Chicago, yeah.
Can't wait for that. Matt Rothschild, he'll be right here with me in Madison, 4:05. But Dominic, back, yes, one other thing. Tomorrow night, I am looking forward to, for a strange reason. Tomorrow night on CNN, Anderson Cooper, the Dem presidential debate 2.0, the debate draw.
The lottery.
The little debate lottery thing. And I'm very excited to announce them. Our credentials have been, acknowledged and accepted and issued.
Thank you, CNN.
Democratic Presidential Debate 2.0. And here's the really good news, Tom. That 2-day event, this will be the second debate. The last debate where they sort of opened it up to any old body. But that event will happen on Tuesday, July 30th, and Wednesday, July 31st. A 2-day event. 10 candidates on the stage each night. And we'll find out tomorrow night, who's on what night. But we will be at the debates both nights. We, the Devil's Advocates, will broadcast live. We're doing it live between 3 and 7 p.m. Central Time. Just a 4-hour show. It was 5 hours in Miami. A 4-hour show. That's still plenty of super great radio coverage. We might be the only live radio broadcast happening from the debate spin room in Detroit.
You're welcome.
And we'll be live 3 to 7, but here's the really super duper great part, Dom.
What?
We get to broadcast the debates live as well with limited commercial interruption thanks to our friends at Teamsters Local 200. Our broadcast partners, Westwood One, will provide the debate. So the debate will play out 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time.
Nice.
We will do the pregame between 3 and 7, and we will be perhaps the only fine radio product on site doing pregame coverage. But the debate itself will be on Talk 92.7 FM. It'll be on WRD. It'll be on WTTN. Very excited to make that announcement, Dom.
That's awesome. That's coming up quick, too.
It is.
And it's in Detroit, Motown. Man, I was born in Livonia. I can't wait to get back to Detroit's Rock City.
I don't know how you ever made it off the 8-round.
It's tough, I tell you.
Let's get back to talking about this racist president. And it's not just my opinion. Apparently, it's the polled opinion of many, many Americans. But he didn't, change his tune, Dom. And we know first he tweeted, and then he doubled down and tripled down. So what are we up to today? Quadruple downing? Right. Calling them the 4 horsewomen of the apocalypse, talking about the squad.
Well, let's not forget, I also want to remind people of the terminology used by his advisor, Kellyanne Conway, calling these congresswomen, the dark underbelly of America.
Hey, what's your ethnicity? How dare you question her?
I mean, really? This is what it's come down to. This is our discourse in this country. And when Republicans defend this behavior and defend these choice of words, well, then they themselves become a part of it. And it continues to grow. And I want to get a couple more out there from John Kennedy. Of course, apparently Trump plagiarizing what Senator John Kennedy had to say. A couple more from him, Brian. Let's do cut 83.
I don't think the president is a racist. I don't think his original tweet was racist. I think it was a poor choice of words.
And 84.
What I heard him say in clarification was, this is not China, this is not North Korea, this is America. And if you hate our country, you're free to leave anytime you want to. And I think that's a legitimate point of view.
And you can leave right now.
But here's the deal. I have not heard any of these women say that they hate this country. So what kind of projection are you doing?
Oh, don't tell Fox News that. They're all for open borders and they hate America.
Then you know what? We have
and they prove it by serving in Congress.
then provide the audio. Let's hear the video. Let's see the transcript. Because all you're doing is perpetuating lies.
That's purposeful, Dom. You realize that, right? They want to do that. They're mischaracterizing the words of the squad and the entire Democratic Party. We're all freaking communists. We're all socialists now. Between the red baiting and the lying about what these women may or may not have said, and quite frankly, they never said it, right? No one ever said we hate America. They might say, I hate Donald Trump. I think you should impeach the MFer. And in fact, there will be, and you should be very excited about this, there will be a vote in the U.S. House of Representatives today.
Yes.
Whether or not to start an impeachment of Donald Trump.
Hashtag impeach the MFer. Hell yes. Vote yes.
I'm not sure that they will allow a vote to come to the floor. The Democratic leadership may not agree
Do it now.
with Texas Rep. Al Green, who's trying to force their hand, Dom, right? He wants to impeach Trump for being a racist. Well, there's no doubt, at least not on the Democratic side, that Trump's a racist. And there's no doubt in my mind any longer that the entire Republican Party that defends this man, Dom, they're also racist.
Well, I mean, only 68%.
Guilt by association, if nothing else.
Among Republicans, 57% say that they agree with Trump. So, I mean, there's 43% that are not overtly racist in the Republican Party. But apparently, they have no spine.
Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Dial up those phones, 844-967-2789. Your calls on the other side.
Want to see the super sexiest political show on earth? Check out the Devil's Advocates on YouTube.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Hi, I'm Anton Capella. As Chief Technology Officer at Five Nines, it's my job to make sure your network is up 99.999% of the time. Technology is constantly evolving, and keeping your business up to date in an ever-changing environment can be a hassle. At Five Nines, we're here to help. Five Nines is more than just our name. It's the level of service you can expect. Better IT gives your business a competitive advantage. Learn how Five Nines can help at fivenines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
You are listening to WRRD 1510 AM, Waukesha, Milwaukee. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
From the Capitol in Madison, this is Wiz Politics Midday.
Good afternoon. I'm Pat Pobletti, and our report for Wednesday, July 17th is brought to you by Spectrum. President Donald Trump has appointed former Governor Scott Walker to the Board of Trustees for the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars in the Smithsonian Institute. But first, Governor Tony Evers is scheduled to lead a trade mission to Japan in September in an effort to expand exports from Wisconsin companies. The trip will mark the first trade mission of Evers' administration. The delegation is set to visit Tokyo, Yokohama, and Chiba City from September 6th through the 14th. Additionally, according to campaign finance reports, Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes spent nearly $8,500 more than he raised during his first 6 months in office. The former Milwaukee lawmaker raised over $29,000 during that period, nearly two-thirds of which came from contributions from individuals. Barnes had several large contributions, including one $1,000 contribution and 10 $500 contributions. But more than 70% of the contributions to his campaign committee were $50 or under, and the median contribution was just $25. Still, Barnes spent nearly $38,000 over the course of the last 6 months, largely on travel, campaign staff, and software. He was left with just shy of $21,000 cash on hand. Former Lieutenant Governor Rebecca Clayfish, who is considered a possible Gov candidate in 2022, reported over $225,000 in her campaign account, even though she didn't raise any money during the period. But her campaign racked up nearly $1,400 in expenses for phone bills, bank charges, and software. Finally, Walker, who will take over as the president of the Young America's Foundation in 2021, was appointed to the Wilson Center board for a term that runs through October 23, 2024. According to its website, the center was chartered by Congress in 1968 as a nonpartisan policy forum dedicated to addressing global issues through research and other means. It brings together preeminent scholars and experts to research topics of national and international importance. The president appoints members of the Board of Trustees. For West Politics Midday, sponsored by Spectrum, I'm Pat Popoletti.
This has been WisPolitics Midday. For more state government and political news, visit wispolitics.com.
County Executive Chris Avery has declared racism a public health crisis, but he cuts the bus route for mostly black families driven mostly by black drivers.
Milwaukee knows that Chris Abele is not on our side. Milwaukee has learned that pretty clearly, and he's not going to be protecting the poor of this city or the working class of this city, and we know that.
Call Chris Abele at 414-278-4338 and tell him you support and transit workers local 998 and ask him why is he making this public health crisis worse.
The Devil's Advocates. Sausage making never looked so good.
What have we done with innocence?
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Dom, I'm so sick of talking about your racist president.
He's not my racist president. He's John Kennedy's racist president.
He's America's racist president currently, but I want to talk about what comes next. And we know the Democratic cycle, it has begun in earnest. We'll be at the debates in Detroit, July 30th and 31st. Super cool. We'll be able to play those big events out here on the radio. But my boy Bernie currently giving a major speech on Medicare for All, Dom. And I went to his Twitter stream, to Bernie Sanders, and I found a couple things. I want to bring some of this to the attention of our audience. Sort of to recap the prior topic Bernie puts out there about 2 hours ago. We have a president today who is a racist. That needs to be said.
He said it more than once. Bernie has said this many, many times.
Also, about 3 hours ago, Bernie tweeted this out at Bernie Sanders. And I would point out, Bernie Sanders, historically, during the 2016 campaign, did not take a lot of direct pot shots at his opponents. There weren't a lot of direct shots. But Bernie Sanders tweeted out about 3 hours ago, Joe Biden said people would lose coverage if we move to Medicare for All. That is absurd. Calling out the former vice president by name. And that's not his normal M.O., Dom. And he's giving what he perceives to be a big speech at George Washington University. We will see how the media covers that speech later in the day, Dom. But ultimately, Bernie doesn't think he's getting a fair shake from the media. Joe Biden's getting nothing but warm cockles, and Bernie's getting nothing but the back of the media's hand down.
Crudy, Jonathan Easley, Max Greenwood at The Hill. Bernie Sanders campaign aides are questioning the polls and venting frustration, with the news media arguing that a biased political press is writing him off or blackballing him from coverage of the 2020 Democratic presidential primary. Sanders is in second or third place in many national and early stage polls, but his campaign has struggled to overcome the emerging narrative that his moment has passed. After electrifying the liberal base as the lone serious challenger to Hillary Clinton in 2016, Sanders has at times been overshadowed in his second presidential run by Senators Warren and Harris, who have generated buzz and excitement as they have risen in the polls. Sanders' campaign aides have taken notice, arguing the public opinion surveys don't capture their young, enthusiastic base of supporters or the new voters they say they're bringing into the fold. And the campaign is turning its allegations of unfair media coverage into a rallying cry, telling supporters that the news media's inherent bias, obsession with horse race politics about who is rising and falling, and the propensity to give outsized coverage to new candidates has led to a Sanders blackout that gives a false impression about the state of the race. Every time there is a story about how Bernie can't win, it fans the flame of our base and we get more donations and more volunteers, said one Sanders campaign aide who is not authorized to speak on the record. We'll never be the favorite in the media. I get it, but when was the last time one of these pundits visited a field office or talked to a state director? The bottom line is we have 2 million donors who have bought stock in what we're trying to do. That's powerful. If the media doesn't want to tell that story, that's fine. It just means we have to out-hustle these other campaigns.
So, Dominic, real question. I've seen this a lot in the media of late. The party's moving too far to the left. Be it the, support of the squad, AOC and Presley and Omar, whether it's the young ladies, the squad that are pulling us to the left, or whether it's the candidacy of Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren or perhaps one of the others, pulling us to the left. But here's something I keep hearing. We're too far left. We're radically to the left. And I don't think that is possible, not based on the proposals being made by Bernie Sanders. And I'm going to throw Elizabeth Warren in there. They're seemingly in a very similar lane. But Bernie's for Medicare for all. Dom, all the polling we see, where are the American people at?
They're for Medicare for all.
Yeah, they're for Medicare for all. Bernie Sanders advocates for raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Where is the vast majority of the American people at? Setting aside the corporate job creators who, of course, don't want to see any pressure upward on the wages of the working staff. But the majority of the American people are with me and Bernie on this topic, right, Dom?
That's my understanding.
So I hear the centrist. I hear, can't go too far left. And I think it's bogus, man. I think it's a ridiculous proposition that we somehow are going too far left. I know Bernie Sanders agrees with that. And I would remind people, 4 years ago, I realized different elective cycle. But 4 years ago, about this time, Dom, Bernie came to Madison, Wisconsin, put on a rock concert at the Alliant Energy Center, right? 10,000 people.
Amazing. We won an award for that one, I think.
You look in the polls, and Bernie was at about 5% nationally at that time. And yet, ultimately, when it played out on the ground, the enthusiasm we saw at the Alliant Energy Center for Bernie Sanders was reflected in the outcome of the primary election, at least here in the state of Wisconsin. Bernie won 71 of 72 counties in the state. Bernie Sanders handily beat, I said Elizabeth Warren, or I meant to, but no, Hillary Clinton, obviously. And I would wonder, maybe I'm misreading the tea leaves here, Dom, but the enthusiasm for Bernie Sanders, I have not seen it diminish tremendously. I mean, for the polls to be right, and for the proclamations of Bernie's early death in this electoral cycle, he's last cycle's news, he's never going to get it done. But that's what you said about the man the last time through. Right. You completely overlooked the man that, rose in the polls and rose in the hearts and minds of so many Americans. And ultimately, I'm not sure if Bernie's going to win the nomination. I think right now, Elizabeth Warren may have a little more support. She might be nudging ahead of him in that progressive lane. But we've not even seen these two candidates debate head-to-head. Nor Biden and Warren, nor Bernie and Warren. There's a lot of different scenarios that could play out. I know a few things for sure. Bill de Blasio will not be our next president.
Are you sure about that?
There will be 10 or 12 candidates on the stage in Detroit that have 0% chance, at least in the current electoral cycle, to be the next president of the United States. But unless our audience tells me I'm somehow missing the boat, Dom, and I don't think I am, call us. Tell me I'm wrong. 844-967-2789. I'm going to continue to feel the burn. I'm going to continue to discount the polling because I think it under-reflects the support, the grassroots support of the Bernie followers. Now, ultimately, it will play out at the ballot box. And if I'm proven wrong, well, more power to the winner. But until I'm proven wrong, and that doesn't happen very often around here, Dom, until I'm proven wrong, I believe Bernie is still probably the front runner in the Democratic field. And if he's not, it's Elizabeth Warren.
844-967-2789. Continuing on from the Hill piece. On Sunday's Meet the Press, NBC anchor Chuck Todd confronted Sanders with criticism that his 2020 campaign sounds exactly like his 2016 campaign.
It sounds exactly like his 1980 campaign. It sounds like what he's been saying for 40 years, but please continue. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sanders responded that he will change what he's saying, quote, when the poor get richer, the rich get poorer, and when all our people have health care as a right, when we are leading the world in the fight against climate change. The man has been consistent. Also, continuing, Sanders' allies argue that in 2016, pollsters routinely underestimated his base of support and failed to account for young or new voters who supported him. They say they have an unparalleled network of volunteers and point to the fact that they've raised more money than any other candidate in the last 2 quarters of the year from about 2 million individual small donors. In Iowa, for instance, where Sanders outperformed expectations in 2016, his campaign has carefully built up a massive turnout operation aimed at turning non-voters into highly motivated caucus goers. Here's a quote from Rep. Rokana. I think the polling probably underestimates his support because last caucus, what happened is he exceeded the polls. There were about 10 to 12,000 people who showed up the day of the caucuses who registered as Democrats to vote. Kana said that Sanders' support is strongest in Iowa, the first in the nation caucus state, and California, which will vote on Super Tuesday. Both states will be critical in determining the Democratic nominee. Kind of goes on. I think his support in Iowa is very strong. He's got one of the best ground teams. I was all over the state, and he's got numerous volunteers showing up to help canvass and call this early. But Monmouth University pollster Patrick Murray said he has come across a significant chunk of 2016 Sanders supporters who are giving the other candidates a serious look. Murray agreed that pollsters don't know what the 2020 electorate will look like and that it's possible new voters will propel Sanders to victory. But he said surveys showing Harris and Warren on the rise and cutting into Sanders' support are an accurate reflection of the state of the race, at least at this early stage when support for all of the candidates is soft. And here's what Murray said. We don't know who will show up. The polls are not clear on what the electorate will look like, but the overall trend of where the different candidates are moving is real. There are Sanders voters from 2016 who are looking seriously at other candidates, and that's why his support isn't where it was last time. Some might not go back to him because of the plethora of candidates to choose from.
But the plethora of candidates will diminish soon.
Yes.
I mean, really, you've got through the end of July. And if you don't perform on the debate stage, get out of the way and let someone that might win on the debate stage, Dom. So by September, third debates, September 12th of this year, obviously, the Dems will go at it for a third time. And the criterion will be significantly higher, Dom. In my understanding, there may be only 6 to 8 Democrats that qualify for the second round. Pardon me, third round. And then what happens if you're, an Eric Swalwell supporter? You know, both of them.
He's already out.
Well, I get it. That's why I brought him up first. There are many more that should be out. I'm not sure that John Delaney's still putting on a campaign. There are a few others. I wonder if they've got any fuel left in the tank. Hell, Beto O'Rourke only raised like $3.7 million. That's not the trajectory of a future winning presidential campaign. So what happens? I know Beto O'Rourke's got a lot of love out there. So what happens when Beto eventually faces facts and Beto drops out? No offense to the Beto folks.
Where do those people go? Right.
Yeah, some of the candidates that actually do have a following of sorts, but perhaps will never garner enough attention, to get into double digits. But Beto, I've seen him all as high as 7, 8, 9%. Beto O'Rourke does have a constituency of sorts. And where do they go? Where do, and eventually, and the real tell will be when either Warren or Sanders drops out, because one or the other will have to drop out for the other one to be the successful nominee of the party. So the question I have is, will the Sanders supporters get on the Warren bandwagon, or will the Warren supporters get on the Bernie bandwagon if it comes to that? But, I don't think many of them as a percentage will get on, let's say, the Biden bandwagon. They're not going back to the center. They're not tacking back to the middle.
Yeah, certainly not in the primary.
Well, certainly not in the primary. And as, the one you love, turns out not to be the one that we pick as a broader electorate.
Then love the one you're with.
And my only question is, am I misreading the tea leaves? And no one's really called to disagree or support this concept. I think Bernie's still got plenty of support, certainly here in the state of Wisconsin, certainly amongst listeners of this fine radio product. I think Bernie Sanders still the front runner in the state of Wisconsin. I would say for a few strategic reasons, Bernie might still be the national front runner, but that's mostly about momentum that he could garner by winning the Iowa caucuses. I think Bernie does have the ground game. I think he's got 25,000 plus volunteers. You got to win early, and then you got to win often. And Bernie at least has a theoretical path to the presidency. And I'm not sure that most of those candidates do.
No, and I get that. I just don't know that, bitching about the lack of coverage is the way to go. I mean, if you look at the quote from one of these Sanders campaign's aide, not authorized to speak on the record. Every time there's a story about how Bernie can't win, it fans the flames of our base and we get more donations and more volunteers. Well, if that's the case, you should be ecstatic then. Right? I mean, if it's giving you more money,
getting non-coverage?
Yeah. Well, because if that's fanning the flames, if it's motivating the supporters, then what's the problem? It's just so early in this game, but I want to address the socialism thing, if I may briefly, Crudy. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, you take a mental note. Here's what I would say. The true believers, it fans the flame of the true believers, and certainly you need those very motivated true believers. And Bernie's got plenty of those. And I have no doubt that Bernie leads the nation in true believers. But to win a primary, you got to win over people that weren't convinced to vote for you the last time, or maybe didn't vote, or just turned 21 or 18 or whatever the case may be. It has to be an expanding tent. And when the media does not give a singular candidate fair coverage, much like they did, to my opinion, the last time through, because I think as much of the outcome, the fixedness of the primaries the last time, it was the media coverage garnered by Hillary Clinton relative to Bernie Sanders. The media, in part, fixed the primary for the Democrats. They chose Hillary Clinton. And everybody wants to be on a winning team. That's why the momentum early in the race matters. Because people later in the race, as people are just starting to tune in, because Iowa voted, New Hampshire voted, and South Carolina voted, and Nevada voted. And then comes Super Tuesday. And everybody wants to be on the winning team, and some aren't paying attention at all right now. And the only coverage they see is, Bernie's out of it. Well, that will have influence on those.
But do you see that? I watch a lot of coverage, Crudy. I don't see that. In fact, I saw Bernie on last week, all nice and tan and looking good on Rachel Maddow. I mean, I don't know I haven't seen Joe Biden on Maddow. I haven't seen Buttigieg. I mean, it's been a while since Kamala Harris. When she stomped on Biden, that caused some stir, certainly. And Elizabeth Warren's always out there doing her thing. So I'm not seeing it, man. I mean, no one gets the coverage they want unless you're Trump. But I just don't think that this is a concerted effort by the media to try to blackball Bernie people.
I think there is some of that. I think there's a small element of that. I think that some of the reporters have preconceived notions from the last elective cycle. And I think they are dismissive of Bernie Sanders.
Well, the preconceived notions that Bernie came out of nowhere and damn near took Iowa? I mean, come on. If anything, you should actually look at the man's history, look at what he did, look at the consistency. You can't deny the facts. He brought people to the party that were not there before. He did it last time. He's going to do it this time. The question is certainly how much.
Dominic, there are colleagues in Wisconsin journalism that did not see the ass whooping coming that Bernie handed to Hillary Clinton in the primaries here.
Do you think they're aware now?
Well, I think they would be quick to dismiss and say, well, yeah, but that was last.
Yeah.
Well, now we got Joe Biden. He's a strong centrist.
You can't trust those journalists, Crudy.
Well, I don't. Fake news and all.
Well, they report. Listen, you report on the facts, right? Opinion makers and opinion givers, whatever. You can't deny what Bernie did last cycle.
Some would want to. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. No denying here. 844-967-2789.
We started about 3 months ago a presidential campaign believing that we must bring the promise of America to all Americans.
Good heavens. Are you still trying to win?
How many assholes we got on this ship anyhow? Would you say I have a plethora? I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes.
Did you ask me a question?
Transit worker Local 998 knows that cuts to transit service are cuts to our community.
I would get paid like $7.25 doing the same things I'm doing out here, and I'm getting paid $10.
You know, I'm a disabled veteran, and, you know, this is my only way of getting around at this point.
You know, I got a car at the house, but my mama don't like driving all the time, or she got work and stuff, so I rely on the bus, you feel me?
There is no other way. If the bus wasn't there, I would have to call somebody for a ride, and, you know, I can't really afford to give people gas money for rides, and I don't have a vehicle, so these buses really help me out a lot.
Transit worker Local 998 also know who is responsible for these cuts, and so does the county.
Milwaukee knows that Chris Abele is not on our side. Milwaukee has learned that pretty clearly, and he's not going to be protecting the poor of this city or the working class of this city, and we know that.
Call Chris Abele at 414-278-4338 and tell him you support your community and Transit Workers Local 998.
Attention retirees and actives and all pension funds. This is Bob Amsden
and Bernie Anderson of the Wisconsin Committees to Protect.
We are asking anyone that supports retirement savings security to call your U.S. representatives to support H.R. 397, also known as the Butch-Lewis Act.
This bill is one of the first bills in years to address the pension time bomb. This bipartisan bill will be voted on in the House of Representatives the week of July 22nd.
Please call your representatives now. This will affect everyone with a pension directly and indirectly.
If you are in favor of retirement security, as we all are, please call your representative at 202-225-3121.
Tell Brian Stile, Jim Sensenbrenner, and Glenn Grothman to vote for H.R. 397, the Butch-Lewis Act. Be courteous and polite, but stress that they must protect your retirement savings.
That's 202-225-3121.
Let's save retirement security.
The big and tall of political talk. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube and Facebook, on Twitter at Devil Radio, and the phone lines 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I've got Bernie Sanders' schedule from this weekend. He's going to pack more in on Saturday than you do in some months. Let me read it for the people. Bernie Sanders, slight revision of schedule. Saturday, 10:30 a.m., Council Bluff, Iowa. Office opening with Senator Bernie Sanders. 11:45, Senior Issues Roundtable with Senator Bernie Sanders. 2 o'clock, AARP Presidential Forum with Senator Bernie Sanders. 4:30 p.m., Union County Fair with Senator Bernie Sanders. 7:30 on Saturday night, Iowa Farmers Union Summer Picnic with Senator Bernie Sanders. And then he goes to bed, and then he gets up and he starts again Sunday morning, Dom. Sunday, 9:30 a.m., Union Workers and Retirees Coffee with Senator Bernie Sanders. 10:30, Ottumwa Office Opening with Senator Bernie Sanders. 1 p.m. on Sunday, Fort Madison Rally with State Rep Jeff Kurtz and Senator Bernie Sanders.
Way to go, Bernie.
He's working it, Dom. That's how you win Iowa, and I think he gets that. I know Elizabeth Warren gets it. She's out there on the campaign trail. I'm not sure if some of the rest deserve this sort of coverage, Dom, because if they're serious candidates, they better go out there and start winning the ground game.
The socialist argument, I think, needs to be addressed in perhaps different ways. Obviously we hear the president and people calling, they're all communists. Curdy, you mentioned that. Of course, these are different things. But when we look at socialism as it has occurred in this country.
Don't tell that to a Trumpster.
Then let's talk about it. Fire departments, roads, libraries, schools, right? National defense. What about the oil subsidies? Hell, what about Foxconn, right? These are all tenets of a quote-unquote socialistic society. So how is it okay for all or most of those things, depending on your conservative leanings? I know a lot of them don't like the public education, but hell, we have decided as a country we are going to unify, we're going to collect our money, and we're going to make efforts to educate the citizens of this country. That's a good thing. We should do more of that. But how is it okay for the military but not for health care? It's not about whether or not we're a socialist country. It's about what priorities do we determine? What are the priorities on our socialist tenets? We're going to spend $7-8 trillion on the military, but we're going to allow for insurance companies to fleece everybody on their health care. That doesn't make sense to me. And if it's okay for the military, if it's okay for the fire department, why isn't it okay in other circumstances? Until some Republican tells me that, and let's not forget where the politicians are getting paid, it's all socialism. They're not independently wealthy. Some of them are. Some of them get a whole lot wealthier when they get to Congress, but they are paid and their insurance is provided by the people. So I'm really getting sick and tired of these redneck anti-socialist people who collect their Social Security and perhaps on their Medicare, telling you to keep your hands off my Medicare. Well, come on, this is what it is. And when they use the words, I don't think they think what they think it means. It doesn't make sense, and we need to just accept the fact, frame it in, here's what we're already doing that you would consider socialism. Tell me why we shouldn't do this way, or tell me why we shouldn't do it that way.
Because you're expecting nuance back from the Trumpsters, Tom, and I think that's there will be no nuance. It doesn't matter who the Democratic nominee will be. Donald Trump will tar and feather that person a socialist or a communist or worse, right? So if we kid ourselves and we take a half step and we put a centrist candidate out there, they'll be tar and feathered a socialist. Only the real progressives, the real quote-unquote socialists, well, they know that person's not really a socialist. So they'll be left wanting. Like the Democratic socialists that supported Bernie in the primary were often left wanting in the general election in 2016. So if you're going to run someone out there and they're going to be accused of being a socialist,
anyway,
well, damn it, man, let's run a socialist. Let's put a lefty on the ticket because they're all going to get tar and feathered with the same brush. Doesn't matter who. Come back with us. Got a fine guest, Batman, joining me in the Broadcast Bunker 2.0. He's Matt Rothschild. We're the Devil's Advocates. We'll be right back.
Do you want to be a winner? All the winners I know like the Devil's Advocates Facebook page.
Transit worker Local 998 knows that cuts to transit service are cuts to our community.
I will get paid like $7.25 doing the same things I'm doing out here, and I'm getting paid $10.
You know, I'm a disabled veteran, and, you know, this is my only way of getting around at this point.
You know, I got a car at the house, but my mama don't like driving all the time, or she got work and stuff, so I rely on the bus, you feel me?
There is no other way. If the bus wasn't there, I would have to call somebody for a ride, and, you know, I can't really afford to give people gas money for rides, and I don't have a vehicle, so these buses really help me out a lot.
Transit worker Local 998 also know who is responsible for these cuts, and so does the county.
Milwaukee knows that Chris Abele is not on our side. Milwaukee has learned that pretty clearly, and he's not going to be protecting the poor of this city or the working class of this city, and we know that.
Call Chris Abele at 414-278-4338 and tell him you support your community and Transit Workers Local 998.
You are listening to WRRD 1510 AM, Waukesha, Milwaukee. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
First responders wait. Impeachment debate. I'm Mike Moss. First responders sickened by the 9/11 attacks will have to wait longer for restoration of a health care fund. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul blocked passage of the Senate today because the fund bill does not include offsetting federal spending cuts.
I will be offering up an amendment if this bill should come to the floor, but until then I will object.
Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer.
I don't hear Rand Paul get up on the floor and say we have to pay for the entire defense budget or the money for our soldiers. That's fine with me. But why is he doing it now? For these first responders, they are no different than our soldiers.
We'll know in a few minutes whether Texas Congressman Al Green will get a vote on his articles of impeachment against the president for alleged racism. Correspondent Phil Mattingly's on Capitol Hill.
Democratic leaders from Nancy Pelosi on down have made clear they want no part of this effort. They believe, and Speaker Pelosi has made clear, there is a set pathway that Democrats can take and are taking related to investigating the president. And that investigation, in large part, focuses on obstruction.
The House could vote on whether to hold Attorney General William Barr and Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross in criminal contempt for defying subpoenas. Protests are growing in Puerto Rico against the governor. San Juan Mayor Carmen Cruz accuses him of not distributing Hurricane Maria assistance.
Ricardo Rosselló withheld aid, says so, withheld aid that was coming to people.
Some are calling for Governor Rosselló's impeachment. Prosecutors have dropped a case accusing actor Kevin Spacey of groping a young man at a Nantucket bar in 2016. The case faltered when Spacey's accuser invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination and refused to testify about text messages the defense claims were deleted from his phone. On Wall Street, the Dow was down 115, S&P down 19. I'm Mike Moss. Have you...
Five9, your local single-source IT solutions provider, specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy five9s.com.
Opiates has taken everything and everyone I've ever loved away from me. Everything.
I blew my ankle out and I got prescribed pain pills by my doctor.
If making my detox public is going to help somebody, I'm all for it. I just wish I would have had a warning.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth. A message from Truth, the Ad Council, and ONDCP.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone. Done. By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Kingpin Joaquin El Chapo Guzman was sentenced to life in prison today.
Guzman complained that he was brought to the U.S. for a fair trial, but that's not what he received. Defense attorney Jeffrey Lichtman said some jurors may have ignored the judge's order to avoid news coverage of the case.
No matter what you think of Joaquin Guzman, he still deserves a fair trial.
Guzman also complained about the extreme conditions of his detention. His lawyers said it was physical, emotional, and mental torture.
Joaquin Guzman behaved like a gentleman.
Assistant Attorney General Brian Benchkowski said justice was served.
If you pump hundreds of thousands of tons of cocaine and other drugs into our country, we will find you.
Steve Kastenbaum at federal court in Brooklyn, New York.
The DNC is warning Democratic presidential candidates not to use the popular smartphone application Face app. The app was developed by the Russians, and the DNC says it comes with a use risk. I'm Mike Moss.
U.S. Senator Ron Johnson.
Mueller, in an exhaustive and excruciatingly detailed investigation, found no evidence of conspiracy conclusion. Kind of end of story.
That you cannot say that. The evidence they found did not rise.
I just said
the evidence they doesn't make it true, sir. The evidence they found, according to the Mueller report, did not rise to criminal conspiracy. They used encrypted data. They deleted data. They didn't have access to some of the Russian players. You didn't know that your president that you voted for was in negotiations to build a condo in Moscow and give Putin a cherry on top.
You just dropped your pen.
I did. I get a little excited.
Calm down here, Don.
But here's a lot of things that I would say, yes, there is absolutely collusion. Now, does it rise to criminal conspiracy? They could not prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, that's not no conspiracy.
I'm just watching the veins pop out of your neck here, and I'm getting a little concerned about you, Don.
I'll be all right if you just answer the question, sir.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
For WRRD and WTTN, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. A heat advisory will be in effect for the Milwaukee and Madison areas beginning at noon tomorrow and going until 11 p.m. on Friday. Also, strong to severe storms are possible tonight. Some areas could see large hail, damaging winds, and heavy downpours. And Milwaukee PBS is making some changes. After 50 years, the Great TV Auction is now history. Milwaukee PBS says the most recent auction in May resulted in a net loss. The fundraising model is now more focused on memberships, which have been on the increase instead of TV auctions. Milwaukee PBS also said they want to increase local programming and play a major role in the PBS coverage of the Democratic National Convention in 2020. You're listening to WRRD and WTTN.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. And Dom's getting better up in here, at least. We've been joined by a good friend. He's Batman. I got Matt Rothschild, Executive Director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, with me here in the Broadcast Bunker 2.0. Welcome back, Matt.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Matt.
Now, Matt, we don't usually talk about the federal judiciary, but I see former U.S. Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens passed overnight at about 99 years of age. And I understand you've got something of a personal connection, or at least your family did. You got a story for us, Matt?
Well, Justice John Paul Stevens practiced law with my father for many, many years in Chicago. That's the little secret in a law firm called Rothschild, Stevens, and Berry. I mean, there you go. And he was a really classy guy. I was real sad to hear the news. 99's not a tragedy. 59 would be a tragedy.
Yeah, 99's a good run, Matt.
It's a real good run, and he had his brain all the way through, and I think he had his body all the way through. So, wish we all had that.
Amen.
So it did kind of take my breath away, though, because it's almost 8 years since my dad died, and Justice Stevens spoke at my dad's funeral, and I remember him in the living room of our house marrying one of my sisters. And, you know, he was really down to earth, and he cared about everybody. He even asked me about how my soccer was going in high school, because I was a soccer player at the time. I mean, he didn't need to do that when he was on the U.S. Supreme Court. He was a really dignified, wise, classy guy. Here's the story I wanted to tell you, though.
I didn't understand it to be a dignified story. I thought it named some names, or
no, it's not.
It was a skosh inappropriate. Do share.
Well, I almost said this story at my dad's funeral with the Justice Stevens standing right by me, and my brother, who now runs my dad's law firm, told me I absolutely cannot tell you.
But you can do it on the Devil's Advocate.
But I'll do it now. It's not a embarrassing story. He wasn't doing anything wrong, but they were young attorneys. My father, Justice John Paul Stevens, and Jack Berry, a great litigant in Chicago, working for a big law firm when they were out of law school. You know, they're young lawyers, hotshot lawyers, really smart guys, all three of them. And they decide they're going to go talk to the boss and say, we're out of here. We're going to form our own little law office. So they go in, they talk to the senior partner, and he says he wasn't happy at all, but he says, okay. And while they're leaving, he tells my dad to stay back, and he kind of whispers to my dad. He says, you know, you're going to be all right. Jack Berry's going to be all right. I don't know about that John Paul Stevens, though. And so, you know, John Paul Stevens got the last laugh on them all. But,
Nice.
My dad liked telling that story, and I kind of liked telling that story.
And they did. They formed the firm you described before.
Yeah, they formed that law firm, and the law firm prospered, and then Justice Stevens was appointed to the courts in Illinois, and then Gerald Ford put him on the U.S. Supreme Court and said, I'd be happy if my whole term as president was measured by my appointment of Justice John Paul Stevens to the bench. And if we've got a second, I'd like to read just a couple excerpts from his dissent in the Citizens United case, because it was a classic.
Always time for you, Matt.
So here this is about whether corporations are persons. This cuts to the heart of Citizens United and all other U.S. Supreme Court decisions about money and politics. He said, the conceit that corporations must be treated identically to natural persons in the political sphere is inaccurate. Corporations have no consciences, no beliefs, no feelings, no thoughts, no desires. Corporations help structure and facilitate the activities of human beings, to be sure, and their so-called personhood often serves as a useful legal fiction, but they are not themselves members of we the people, by whom and for whom our Constitution was established. I mean, I think those words ring more true today than the day he wrote them in 2010. And we are suffering as a consequence of the majority's decision there. And he predicted it. He said, starting today, corporations with large war chests to deploy on electioneering may find democratically elected bodies becoming much more attuned to their interests. And so they are, to our detriment.
And cynicism will increase. Matt Rothschild, he's the executive director at the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, joins us on the phone. This one I also thought was noteworthy regarding Citizens United.
On the phone? I got him standing right here.
Here's what he said. When citizens turn on their televisions and radios before an election and hear only corporate electioneering, they may lose faith in their capacity as citizens to influence public policy. A government captured by corporate interests they may come to believe will be neither responsive to the needs nor willing to give their views a fair hearing. The predictable result is cynicism and disenchantment. Yes, Justice Stevens, right on that statement.
You know, he was great on a whole bunch of other issues. He came around to the belief that capital punishment was unconstitutional. He dissented in Bush v. Gore. He was outraged that his colleagues on the Supreme Court even took that case. And I remember my father saying, oh, they're never going to take that case. And they both were wrong. The Republicans, the conservatives on the U.S. Supreme Court, they were going to get their man in the White House. And I remember, Sandra Day O'Connor is kind of beatified these days, but I remember reading shortly thereafter that she said, I'm not going to stay on the court 4 more years just because we're going to have Al Gore on the court. She wanted to get off the court and wanted to make sure there was another conservative appointed in her place.
Now, Matt, I didn't know Gerald Ford, a Republican, of course, appointed Stevens to the bench. And you had some experience with Justice Stevens in your youth, as you described. Now, he was the defender of liberal ideology appointed by a Republican. I mean, did he have long hair? Was he smoking pot when you knew him? I mean, how did this guy appointed by a Republican end up being the liberal defender?
Well, he grew more and more liberal. I mean, he was always kind of a judge's judge. He wasn't ideological. And occasionally he, to my view, ruled the wrong way. Like he disagreed with desecration of the flag. He didn't think that was protected speech. And I thought he was wrong about that. And he never changed his mind on that one. But I think as the conservatives on the court got more and more doctrinaire, and as they kind of played legal games, he just got infuriated at that, just from a lawyer's and judge's standpoint, that they're messing around with precedent, their arguments stink, and they're just doing stuff on the fly. I think that offended his love of the law. He and my father shared this incredible reverence for the law, which I don't share because I think it's manipulated by those who are in power. And I think that disgusted him, and he gradually moved further along. He wrote a great decision in the George W. Bush administration saying that Rumsfeld and Bush and Cheney couldn't hold these court tribunals of even Osama bin Laden's chauffeur, that there had to be due process even down in Guantanamo Bay. So he really stuck his neck out. And then in retirement, he said we should abolish the Second Amendment, which the righties just love.
Right.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. I got a fine guest, not on the phone, but right here with me. He's Batman. He's Matt Rothschild, Executive Director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. Enjoying the stories, Batman, but got to turn your attention a little closer to home. I saw you at a press conference yesterday, Wisconsin Assembly Parlor. The topic, non-partisan redistricting. And it's hard for me to even use the word redistricting because for the last decade here in the state of Wisconsin, or at least 8 or 9 years, we've been subject to a very strategic and very overwhelming partisan gerrymander on behalf of the Republicans. I think our pal Dave Hansen yesterday pointed out, he called it the worst gerrymander in America, and PolitiFact called it mostly true. said, maybe second or third worst, but I stand by my mostly true.
I got my own problems with political fact, but there you go.
So far, they've only rated me mostly true. Thankfully, they've never rated Dom.
They can't even bother. Totally,
they gave me
totally
50% when it should have been a 90%. But anyway, it was a good press conference.
Yes.
There were a lot of people there.
Very well attended.
Like 60 citizens were there. There were a lot of cameras there. The neat thing about these two redistricting bills that are introduced by Senator Dave Hansen of Green Bay, who I love and who's been championing this issue for a long time, and new Representative Robin Vining of Tosa, is that there are Republican co-sponsors. There are now 4. One came in overnight.
Who's the new one?
The new one is Lauren Oldenburg of Viroqua. Viroqua's in the House.
All right, Viroqua.
Viroqua's kind of a liberal place, though, or there, it's kind of purple up there. So I was glad to see another Republican come around. Joel Kitchens of Sturgeon Bay. Todd Novak's been with us for a long time. The mayor of Dodgeville, who also serves in the Assembly, and Travis Trenell.
Thanks, Travis.
Don't look for Crudy to reinforce pronunciation of a name.
So there is a bipartisan support for these bills. Momentum is building on this. I mean, in a Marquette poll early in the year, 63% of Republicans in favor, 76% of independents in favor of banning gerrymandering in Wisconsin. This thing is going to happen sooner or later, and I think any elected officials or any candidates running for office who are standing in the way of banning gerrymandering in Wisconsin are going to do so at their own peril, and that includes Robin Vos and Scott Fitzgerald.
Well, let's address that for just a moment. After Tony Evers signed the budget, Tony was asked what his legislative priorities would be in the fall, and Tony pointed towards nonpartisan redistricting, said number 1, I believe. Then I went immediately over to Scott Fitzgerald's presser, and I asked Fitzgerald specifically about this topic. I said, Senator Fitzgerald, will there even be a hearing? No. Will there be consideration by the caucus of a bill of this sort, nonpartisan gerrymandering? No, why would we? We got a new census, and we got an election, and apparently they think they're, firmly gerrymandered into a position of power. So therefore, why would you give any ground? They think they're going to win, Matt.
Of course they do. And I heard Robin Vos say, why let career civil servants, bureaucrats, he called them, draw maps when politicians know better than anybody else? Of course, what did the politicians who know so much do last time when they had the power? They rigged the map, and one of the worst riggings of all time. So, they can try to stymie the will of the people for a while, but I just have the sense from working on this issue over the last few years and seeing the momentum rise and rise and rise, that they are going to do so at a great cost. The people are just sick and tired of it, no matter whether you're independent, whether you're Republican, whether you're Democrat, progressive, conservative, just sick of the rigging of the game by the people in power, whether it's Democrats in power or Republicans in power. People want fair play. They want a level playing field, and enough of the monkey business with the maps. And we're seeing signs crop up all over the state that say, fair maps for Wisconsin. And this thing is going to build and build and build until some of these legislators who oppose it are taken down.
Matt, let's talk about signs for just a moment, specifically visual aids. When you spoke yesterday, you were like holding up a big honking sign the entire time. The state of Wisconsin represented in a number of referendums across the state of Wisconsin. What is it, 47 counties?
Yeah, so here we have 47 county boards have passed county board resolutions telling the state legislatures that their county, the citizens of their county want to ban gerrymandering, want the state legislators to pass a law banning gerrymandering in Wisconsin. There have been 8 counties that have passed referendums. Those 47 counties, most of those are red, really red counties. And yet, their county board officials, a lot of those are stodgy folks. They heard the voices of their people.
One area conspicuous in the center of Wisconsin, just north of Dane County, had not been a referendum that I saw, and maybe I got this wrong, but Sauk County, Columbia County, or Dodge County. Do you know we've got WTTN 1580 playing out from the heart of that location? Matt, should we be pushing these county boards to have future referendums, in, let's say, Scott Fitzgerald's backyard?
I absolutely agree with that. And Columbia County. Columbia County is standing out as one of the few counties in southern Wisconsin that has not passed this resolution or referendum. So we got to keep the heat on.
It's not lack of will from the people of Columbia County, I suspect.
No, it's the county board is sticking in the mud on that one, and we need to get them off their seats.
Folks, we have the Devil's Advocates. We got Batman. He'll knock you off your you-know-what and onto your ass. He's Matt Rothschild, the executive director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. We'll talk more about good governance, nonpartisan gerrymandering, and perhaps whatever Dom wants to talk about.
All right.
When we come back on the other side, more Devil's Advocates, more Matt Rothschild.
Perhaps you think you're being treated unfairly?
Well, who says life is fair? Where is that written?
Sure, it's fair!
Attention retirees and actives and all pension funds. This is Bob Amsden
and Bernie Anderson of the Wisconsin Committees to Protect Pensions.
We are asking anyone that supports retirement savings security to call your U.S. representatives to support H.R. 397, also known as the Butch-Lewis Act.
This bill is one of the first bills in years to address the pension time bomb. This bipartisan bill will be voted on in the House of Representatives the week of July 22nd.
Please call your representatives now. This will affect everyone with a pension directly and indirectly.
If you are in favor of retirement security, as we all are, please call your representative at 202-225-3121.
Tell Brian Stile, Jim Sensenbrenner, and Glenn Grothman to vote for H.R. 397, the Butch-Lewis Act. Be courteous and polite, but stress that they must protect your retirement savings.
That's 202-225-3121.
Let's save retirement security.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
Ag, you're it.
When they go low, we get high. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube and on Facebook. We're on Twitter at Devil Radio on the political party line. Toll free, talk or text at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I've got the vigilante of good governance with me. I got Batman, Matt Rothschild, Executive Director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, here in the Broadcast Bunker 2.0. We've been talking about the nonpartisan gerrymandering, the avocation, the press conference yesterday at the Assembly Parlor.
Can you say nonpartisan gerrymandering? I mean, isn't that kind of an oxymoron?
Nonpartisan redistricting.
There we go.
Nonpartisan.
See, we're so used to it, though. We're so used to it, Matt. This is kind of the life we've lived these last 10 years.
Well, let's remember how they drew the maps. I mean, they didn't draw them in the building we're in yesterday, me and Crudy. They didn't draw them in the Capitol. They scurried across the street to the Glass Bank and did it in the cushy law offices of Michael Best and Friedrich in a room that became known as, anyway, the map room. And it was a locked map room.
The map room? Like Indiana Jones?
Yeah, it was a locked map room, but there were maps out there. And when the legislators got in to see their maps, they had to sign an oath of secrecy. So I mean, it was bad process.
So strange.
Bad process, bad product, very anti-democratic.
Matt, my concern, and I know that the polls are showing that this is a bipartisan issue. There are Republicans that support this as well, not to the degree of independents or Democrats, but most fair people want fair maps because that's how you get fair representation. But my concern is that this isn't going to be a single issue voting issue for the Republicans, right? Yeah, we want fair maps, but, we want lower taxes, we want this, we want that, and, we're just not going to get it. Do you think, am I right to have those concerns?
Sure, and it gets to the point, why do people vote for who they vote for? And at some point, we've got to make the case to our fellow citizens here that we need more democracy in Wisconsin, no matter who wins. And no matter how you feel about your own personal issues, we need a democratic process and a level playing field so we can just, have democracy work, and whoever has the best ideas wins. I mean, that's a quaint, naive idea, but, that's how it's supposed to work.
Oh, Matt, you're so cute.
It's not working now. And I think people understand. And I just think, the disgust that helped bring Donald Trump into power may help take down some of these folks who are standing in the way of fair maps and independent, nonpartisan redistricting. Because I remember that first debate when Trump was up there with Walker, who faded so quickly. And Trump said, I've given money to most of these candidates up here, and, when I call them, they do what I want, and the system is rigged. He used the adjective rigged, and that's an adjective that Bernie uses all the time, and that Elizabeth Warren uses all the time, and it resonates with people. They're sick of the rigging, and they just want to clean things up.
Now, Matt, I would wonder, I'm a Packer fan, and I've never much liked the Bears fans out there in the world, not so much individually, but as a group. And I love to see my team whoop their team's ass each and every season. But I would not want to see that at the expense of, let's say, all the referees being in the tank for my team. I mean, I think that would get a little bit old. And I know there are some out there, just win at any cost. But I'm not sure what analogy, what framing brings this home for Republicans. I like the word rigged, but they're used to rigged elections. They're just fine with the Russians rigging the presidency. Matt, I'm not sure that simple rigging is enough to convince the majority of Republicans this is a bad thing.
Well, another argument that is a valid one is, are you sick of the hyper-partisanship? Are you sick of having seats that aren't competitive at all? Because those are the products, those are the poison fruits of gerrymandering. We don't have competitive seats. Sometimes there's only one party running, actually. And when you don't have competitive seats, legislators don't have to listen to like 43% of their constituents because they know they're going to win with the other 57%.
Right. Well, hell, on the issue of Medicaid expansion, on the issue of legalized medicinal or recreational marijuana, or, of course, the issue of nonpartisan redistricting, the Republicans, they're on the wrong side of their own constituencies, the wrong side of history, and certainly the wrong side of this panel. Matt Rothschild, Batman, thank you so much for joining us. If people want to get involved with good governance at the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, how can they find you online?
It's easy, wisdc.org, wisdc.org. Come take a visit.
Always appreciate when you answer the bad call. Thank you, Matt Rothschild. Come back with us. More Devils. Phone lines open, 844-967-2789.
Thanks, Matt.
If politics is boring, you're doing it wrong. Check out more at domandcroot.com.
The process is rigged. This whole election is being rigged.
We have top men working on it right now. Who? Top men.
5 your local single-source IT solutions provider. Specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Wisconsin. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic Association and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod, noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
You are listening to WRRD 1510 AM, Waukesha, Milwaukee. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
County Executive Chris Avery has declared racism a public health crisis, but he cuts the bus route for mostly black families driven mostly by black drivers.
Milwaukee knows that Chris Abele is not on our side. Milwaukee has learned that pretty clearly, and he's not going to be protecting the poor of this city or the working class of this city, and we know that.
Call Chris Abele at 414-278-4338. Tell him you support and transit workers local 998, and ask him why is he making this public health crisis worse.
We the people, the hardworking 99% of men and women, only have a voice when we join together as one and amplify our message. Now is the time for all Wisconsinites to join We the People and raise our voices. Do you feel like you are wasting your money funding unaccountable consultants, unresponsive candidates, and their campaigns? Help us do something that really matters. Please join We the People. Give what you can so we can support progressive radio stations like this one, using the public airwaves to educate Wisconsin about what we the people want for our state and remind Wisconsin's politicians that they work for us. Your donations to We the People at p4ppc.org, a registered, compliant IRS 501c3, will always be tax deductible, will always remain anonymous, and We the People pledge to spend 100% of donations educating Wisconsin on the issues our donors want discussed, giving individuals a voice in the collective message of We the People. Please give today at p4ppc.org. That's p4ppc.org. We the people need you. This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. You know, in the 7 years that Crudy and I have been doing the show, we have never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now, advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Real Resistance Radio. Market your products or services, get your message out, join the resistance. Call us at 414-635-0872. That's 414-635-0872, or go to realresistanceradio.com.
For WRRD and WTTN, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. Republican Congressman Sean Duffy from Northwest Wisconsin took to the House floor yesterday to defend Donald Trump against a resolution condemning him for racist comments directed at members of Congress. Duffy also accused those same congresswomen of being anti-American. That comment caused protest from Democrats who asked that his words be stricken from the record because they are defamatory. In his tirade, Duffy said Trump's remarks could not be racist because he did not cite anyone's race. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison. Tonight, a chance of rain, lows in the low 70s. You're listening to WRRD and WTTN.
The Devil's Advocates, where there's always time for Scott Walker bashing. Hashtag Walker bashing.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, the Hump Day edition. Love our most recent guest. He's a good friend of ours, a fine friend of this show. Hell, he's a friend to everyone. He's Matt Rothschild, Executive Director, Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. They're the good guys and girls over there at wisdc.org. Dominic, my understanding is we've got a new direction to take. I think it's merited. Time for a little more hashtag Walker bashing.
Crudy, it is always time for some Walker bashing. The Raw story reported yesterday.
You know, quite frankly, I thought our frequency of Walker bashing would go down when the man lost ingloriously in his reelected campaign.
That?
I just thought he'd move on. I just thought he'd quietly, Paul Ryan barely gets a mention anymore, right? Say bad leader, but he's not in the public spotlight in the same way that Scott Walker so desperately has tried to remain since he lost election in November.
Scott Walker, appointed to the board of a think tank. Now, this is the reporting of the AP. And I'm using this reporting at the AP because when I posted the Raw story last night about Scott Walker taking this appointment, more than one person responded to me, "Is this a joke?" No, it's not. It's been a busy week for former Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker. On Monday, he announced he would not run for office in 2020 because he had accepted a full-time position starting in 2021 with the Young America's Foundation. And on Wednesday,
Hitler Youth. Let's call them by their, given moniker, Dom.
I give you a little pause to jump in there. And on Wednesday, President Donald Trump announced he was appointing Walker to the board of trustees of one of the world's most highly regarded think tanks. Walker is set to
He cannot possibly be qualified, Dom.
He's set
in
to
any
join
way,
the
shape,
board,
or form.
The Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars in the Smithsonian Institute. It's a 6-year appointment. The Wilson Center describes itself as the nation's key nonpartisan policy forum for tackling global issues through independent research and open dialogue.
Are you kidding me?
Is good.
This man is so not qualified. I mean, I know during the, presidential elective debate, he gave a whole litany of things he would not be good at.
I used to run track.
I'd have put this on the top of the list, Dom. There is no way, that he could ever play the role of a nonpartisan at a global policy forum think tank? Are you freaking kidding me?
Or as Raw Story titles their article, Trump appoints disgraced ex-GOP Gov Scott Walker to oversee scholars at the Smithsonian Institute. And they mention, I think this is, again, something we should all remind people. As governor, Walker sought to drastically cut funding for the University of Wisconsin system. He was even caught trying to remove the, quote, search for truth, unquote, from the guiding principles of the state's university system.
But I think they're just stupid. I think they're idiots.
And, of course, he came out and said, that was just a drafting error.
Well, of course, through what? I want to say freedom of information searches, but public record searches under Wisconsin state law, it was discovered, no, this absolutely came from the Wankinator.
It was in, according to the Washington Post, it was 6 times, 6 different drafts. This remained in the budget.
Oops.
Oh, my bad. We didn't mean to do that.
And you heard Republicans crying, whining about policy that Tony Evers put in his budget. Oh, got to strip all that policy out. But Scott Walker's taking out the Wisconsin idea, the seeking of truth. That's got to come out of what? Through the budgetary process has to come out of the Wisconsin idea.
He wanted to remove it. Removing the words that commanded the university to, quote, search for truth and improve the human condition. Replace that with meet the state's workforce needs.
Suck those lemons.
Having a great time.
And how did this get into the budget? And here's a quote from the Post article. We put this old article up on the Facebook page, The Devil's Advocates. You can check it out there. Here's Walker's excuse. While we had extensive discussions about the merits of an authority and about variations of how higher education is organized in other states, my staff, the budget team, and I did not have much discussion about the mission statement. The only real mention was about adding something to existing language related to workforce development. Staff from the UW, the state budget office, and my office met several times to discuss the authority idea. In anticipation of these meetings, draft language was prepared by the state budget shop to serve as a starting point. In this initial meeting, my chief of staff directed the state budget office and the UW to continue working on statutory language and to elevate concerns or disagreements to his attention when agreement could not be reached. The guiding principle is to keep this process simple because the main focus was providing maximum amount of flexibility under the new authority. So it's the staff's fault. It's everybody else's fault. It was a drafting error, perhaps much like his governance.
I forgot, Tom. Wisconsin needed welders.
Yes, of course we do. Welders. Everybody needs to be a welder, according to Scott Walker. And the mission of higher education is only to serve the state's workforce needs. Period. That's what they wanted. And now he's going to be on this board? Oh, my God.
They can go suck lemons.
Yeah. So there you go. It is true. It's not a joke. It's not fake news.
I realize it's a presidential appointment of governmental officials to a private board, but is this a paying gig?
It is not defined in the article.
I cannot believe. I mean, Donald Trump obviously has zero standards. Remember when Scott Walker, the nation does not need another apprentice, sir.
Do
you remember when
Walker we already
tried
have
to-
an apprentice in the White House. We don't
Mr.
need
Trump, we don't need an apprentice in the White House.
tried
Brian.
to chastise Trump to little or no effect. And for hours in the spin room, he chased every media member he could find. We don't need an apprentice. We've already tried that.
And when I see Scott Walker with his little motorcycle and he puts his helmet on and he gets off and he makes his speech, but he's always riding like he gets off a bike like he's a big tough guy, okay, or a little tough guy.
Little tough guy. Little Napoleonic tough guy.
And now Scott Walker loves himself some Trump, as do the rest of the GOP Trumpsters.
It is the party of Trump and God. God and Trump.
Aren't they the same? Aren't they the same?
844-967-2789. Greatest radio show ever when you contribute. Be like Curtis from West Dallas. Curtis, welcome back.
Oh, my phone went dead. Hello?
Hello, Curtis. You're on
Wake
the
up,
air.
Curtis. You're on the air, man.
Hey, oh my gosh. I almost dropped the ball like Walker. Hey, you know what's really sad, though? That Walker, like you just brought up the points before of when they were, like, hating the Trumpsters, when they were doing all that bashing and Ted Cruz running the state. But you know what's really sad? It's like Walker was unethical at Marquette University, wasn't he?
I'm sorry, say that again.
That Walker did some unethical things at Marquette University.
Scott Walker was accused after the local university newspaper said that apparently the newspaper in a student council presidency race recommended that the students vote for Walker's opponents. And Scott Walker's crew, the Walker campaign team, they went around campus and tried to steal up all the copies of the Marquette University newspaper, triggering that very same newspaper to write some sort of editorial like, he's a crook or something of the effect. They effectively said, don't vote for Walker. Now, he's been accused of failing out of Marquette University. My understanding is he was a student in quote-unquote good status with a GPA of about 2.64 when he dropped out of college, allegedly because he had to provide health insurance to his baby's mama.
It wasn't true. It was a Scott Walker, Scott P. Walker. I'm Scott Kevin Walker.
But he has denied those allegations.
Of course. No, another thing is with Scott Walker, I wonder if Paul Ryan's going to be his assistant, because they can make mini-me's and super-me's,
Yes, they could pal around together. Hell, they both used to work at McDonald's, don't you know, Curtis? Thanks for calling,
but Paul Ryan had to stay in the back on the lettuce and the grill. When Scott Walker, he was a real people person. They put him on the register.
Crudy posted this raw story on the page. Got lots of response, lots of love. A comment I'd like to share with our audience from Laura.
Please do.
Laura Rogers. Thank God we're not communists that promote other party men and people ascend without merit, or we would have someone who never graduated college overseeing Smithsonian scholars. Thank God that we're not like that. Oh, wait. That's exactly what we are. Thank you, Laura. We appreciate it.
Now, Dominic, we do have some breaking news from the Hill. A House resolution to impeach the president. It's been killed.
What?
House kills resolution to impeach Donald Trump. That happened just moments ago. Apparently, still a breaking story. I don't have all the details yet, but 6 minutes ago, the U.S. House tabled impeachment resolution against Trump, though the vote is ongoing based on the votes insofar. It looks like the House will table the impeachment resolution. Many Democrats voted with Republicans to kill the resolution.
Yes.
And successfully, 7 minutes ago, being reported, I believe I'm on The Guardian, 7 minutes ago being reported the U.S. House did indeed table the impeachment resolution against Trump.
Not a fan of that decision. What, we're going to do it later, or we're not going to do it at all? We're going to wait until after the Mueller testifies next week, Wednesday? Really? You got 80 House members that are down? You have all the goings on of this administration, all the continued investigation. Now, I understand Nancy Pelosi, she's quoted here at the Washington Post about this. Let's see here. With all respect in the world for Mr. Green, we have 6 committees who are working on following the facts in terms of any abuse of power, obstruction of justice, and the rest. That is the serious path we are on.
Now, before the impeachment vote, Dom, do you realize that Bill Barr and what's his name? The guy that runs the bank in Sicily. Not Sicily.
Wilbur
Ross. They sent a joint letter to Nancy Pelosi. I'll try to read some of it for the sake of the audience. Dear Madam Speaker, we write to strongly oppose the pending resolution of the Committee on Oversight and Reform concerning the decision to reinstate a citizenship question on the 2020 census. Now, they sent this before the impeachment vote. I'm not sure if the timing conspicuous or not. It is unfortunate that in spite of our department's substantial efforts to accommodate the committee's interest, the committee and now the House of Representatives has chosen to go forward with an unjustified contempt vote regarding a citizenship question that, as you know, will not be asked on the 2020 census questionnaire. We regret that the committee continues to recommend the House wield its criminal contempt authority, even though we remain willing to work towards an appropriate accommodation, notwithstanding the privileged status of the documents at issue and the active litigation that remains pending in the matter. By taking this action, the House, in both unnecessary, undermining intra-branch comedy, COMITY, and degrading the constitutional separation of the powers and its own institutional integrity. It goes on like this for more than 2 pages now. So they're chastising the Speaker of the House for wielding her authority to hold them in contempt because they were contemptuous of her authority, Dom. And they sent this over to her before the tabled impeachment resolution. And the greatest disappointment of today, Mueller's not testifying. Now, I understand. A week from now, next Wednesday, he should be testifying.
That's what they said last week about today.
Newly negotiated, longer period of public testimony, Dom. But I so badly wanted this hump day to include our friend, former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel, and a Mueller time reporting incomparable to anything in this nation's history this side of Watergate, Dom. So I guess that will be delayed a week. I'm just a little depressed. Instant gratification, more to my liking.
Yeah, amen, man. 95, according to Politico, 95 Democrats voted to consider articles of impeachment filed this week by Rep. Al Green, who used a procedural maneuver to force the action. But most Democrats and all Republicans voted to delay consideration of the measure indefinitely.
Now, I didn't think that this was the appropriate time to roll out an impeachment resolution. I think Al Green got a little in front of the leadership.
Well, Green's resolution, according to now the Washington Post, focused solely on Trump's comments about the self-described squad, telling the 4 liberals to go back to their home countries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Perhaps under a different presidency, the racism of the president would be enough to merit impeachment of the man. I think I saw somewhere overnight, I read some reporting. He's now tied as the most racist president of all time.
With who?
Andrew Jackson, Trail of Tears guy.
Yeah, didn't Trump move a picture of Andrew Jackson into his office or
the Oval
something
office.
like that? Yeah.
Yeah, his office is the nation's office, the Oval Office, the president's office. He moved a, co-equal racist into a place of prominence, Dom.
Oh, I know the feeling, Andrew.
But I think with a little hard work, Dom, Donald Trump could surge forward in the first place as the most racist president of all time. And under differing circumstances, maybe that would merit impeachment. But I would not have made this move. I agree, at least with the Democratic leadership that tabled this resolution. And I say we pick this conversation up about a week from now after Mueller has testified and after we've heard the commentary of the incomparable Jim Santel. We've also pushed him back a week. Thank you for your flexibility, Jim Santel. We'll host him next Wednesday.
I cannot wait.
You and I both, brother. Come back with us. Can't wait to talk to our audience. Where are you at? 844-967-2789. Dial now. Talk soon.
Come on.
You wouldn't hire me to be a neurosurgeon. You wouldn't hire me to run condos. You wouldn't hire me to run HP. You probably wouldn't hire me to run the United States Senate. No, I'm going to stay for a while. How about that?
They hire usually good people.
Scott Walker.
Everything you always wanted in a
Governor.
and less.
Freedom.
Now go home and get your f***ing shine box.
County Executive Chris Avery has declared racism a public health crisis, but he cuts the bus route for mostly black families driven mostly by black drivers.
Milwaukee knows that Chris Abele is not on our side. Milwaukee has learned that pretty clearly, and he's not going to be protecting the poor of this city or the working class of this city, and we know that.
Call Chris Abele at 414-278-4338. Tell him you support and transit workers local 998, and ask him why is he making this public health crisis worse.
Naomi Croth here. My family has owned and operated Bachman Construction since 1954. As an all-in-one design-build commercial contractor, Bachman Construction works with project owners from beginning to end of each project to unify responsibility and streamline communication. We provide more opportunities for owner participation and allow for better cost control in the design and construction of a project. For projects big and small, Bachman Construction is your design-build choice for collaborative construction services.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Hi, I'm Kelly, and my family owns Madison Liquidators, a company with sustainability as our business model. We are excited to announce that we are moving into a bigger, nicer location, allowing us to serve you better with expanded inventories of both new and used office furniture. Right now, we will give you a great deal because we would much rather move any of our current inventory into your office than our new space. Check out our complete inventory online at madisonliquidators.com or come make a deal off Pleasant View Road in Middleton before moving day.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube and Facebook, on Twitter at Devil Radio, and on the phones at 844-967-2789.
Dom, I understand we're getting back to the phones.
Let's do that. Brock from HorrorCon, you are up. Thank you for calling. What do you got today?
Hello, fellas. I enjoy your show. I'm just wondering, I have a couple of questions, and maybe it's just my lack of higher education and understanding of the English language.
Maybe you're qualified to head up the scholars at the Smithsonian, Brock.
Holy God, I can only, depending on how low the bar has been set.
It's pretty low, Brock. It's pretty low.
I don't know if you could limbo under that bar, Brock.
Having a great time. No, I could step over the top of it, though.
Yes,
just like everybody else seems to be doing. So by definition, words have certain meanings. That's kind of how you get a language. Everybody agrees words mean the same thing. So he does on TV exactly to the lettering of the law of what describes illegal behavior or racist behavior or discriminatory behavior of a person, an employer, a boss, those kind of things. It's pretty clear. Country of origin, race, religion, all that stuff. So not only does he do a good, he's perfect at this stuff. If he could put half as much effort into coming up with these deals he's supposed to be so good at, as he does worrying about who's from where, and people that are United States citizens that he thinks are from some other country. But I suppose when you're wearing a tinfoil hat, anybody could be, heck, who knows if it's real or not. When you have dementia, it's hard to tell that stuff apart. It just staggers my imagination that there's deals to be had, I think, and there were deals to be had, and he just refuses to do it over and over and over again, unless it comes to Russia. And then we do everything we can. We genuflect, we do a back bend, we have ourselves in some kind of pretzel position just to do whatever we can to make our adversary as comfortable as possible. And the people that are here that voted for him are getting the short end of the stick just like everybody else, and you can't get them to realize it, and I don't think we can fix that. Hopefully they get run out of the gym in 2020. Keep my fingers crossed. I'll hang up and listen to what you have to say. Later.
Later, Brock. You can keep your fingers crossed, but don't hold your breath. Again, referring back to the article in the journal Sentinel today, that 57% of Republicans agreed with the tweets that told the Congresswomen to go back to their original countries, quote unquote.
You can leave.
And a third of the Republicans strongly agree with them, with that statement, with those tweets. Those people are not going to change their mind. They are totally down with this conversation, with telling people to go back. And what? I don't see any racism in that. That's what they'll tell you. No, that's not. That's just a poor choice of words.
Dominic, phone lines open and toll free, 844-967-2789.
What do you think of these?
2789. Real quick, found this little piece at thehill.com. Chris Mills Rodrigo reports Republican Rep Mike Kelly of Pennsylvania on Tuesday weighed in on criticism of Donald Trump's tweets targeting 4 minority congresswomen, saying that he is a person of color because he's white, Dom.
Oh.
Now, let me quote him. They talk about people of color. I'm a person of color. I'm white. I'm Anglo-Saxon. People say things all the time, but I don't get offended as a white Anglo-Saxon male.
Right.
Kelly told Vice News before a vote on a resolution condemning the president. With a name like Mike Kelly, you can't be from any place else but Ireland, he said. The term person of color, Dom, if you didn't know, is widely used in the U.S. to refer to anyone who is not white or of European descent, let's say Anglo-Saxon. Kelly told The Hill that the comment had been taken out of context. Here's what he now says, Dom. The reporter's tweet mischaracterized our conversation and my broader points. We're all created equal. It's time to stop fixating on our differences and focusing on what unites us, because we're all people of color, Dom.
Hey, Mike Kelly, you going to tell that to Trump?
I'm not clear. The House did vote yesterday a resolution condemning our racist president. Come back with us. The Hump Day Happy Hour, it's about to commence. Want to hear from lots and lots of you folks. I mean, it's not Friday. We're not airing grievances, but if you got some problems, with Trump or Walker, probably Dom.
What?
844-967-2789. We'll be right back. More of you, more of us. But you got to dial the phones. Otherwise, it's just more of us.
Which is fine, too.
If you missed something on the Devil's Advocates, don't worry. After you get over your shame, you can check out domandcroot.com. Podcasts and interviews updated daily.
It's a disgrace what's happening. Everybody watching can really be very proud of what's taken place. All they do is complain. If you're not happy here, you can leave. We have not planned for that. I'm proud to tell you that was actually my sick idea. They want to get going, and they're going to get going, and we have a lot of these things happening. You can leave.
Got unwanted pests in your home or business? Call Get Rid Pest Control at 414-368-0696. State licensed and certified with over 20 years experience, Get Rid Pest Control guarantees their work in the removal of common household pests, including mice, rats, ants, roaches, spiders, centipedes, and bedbugs. Humane trapping and removal of larger pests as well. Unmarked vehicles available upon request. 24-hour emergency service available. Call Get Rid Pest Control today for your free estimate. 414-368-0696. If you got it, we'll get it.
Hi, I'm Anton Capella, Chief Technology Officer at Five Nines. Five Nines is more than just our name. It's the level of service you can expect. We provide 99.999% uptime. That's the highest availability and performance you can get. You have enough to worry about with your business data, web, security, and cloud services, So we'll manage your IT so you don't have to. Visit 59s.com. That's the number 5NINES.com.
You are listening to WRRD 1510 AM, Waukesha, Milwaukee. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
Impeachment set aside, 9/11 extension blocked. I'm Barbara Cusack. The House voted to table an impeachment resolution against President Trump, effectively killing the measure for now. It was brought forward by Texas Democrat Al Green, who said before the vote,
"You don't delay justice. The Mueller hearing has nothing to do with what we're doing now. The Mueller hearing is all about obstruction. This is about bigotry and racism."
The House vote was 332 to 95 to set aside the measure. Heading to a campaign rally in North Carolina, there was more tough talk from President Trump regarding 4 congresswomen of color.
When you look at some of the things they said, they're unthinkable. If somebody else or me or anybody else said things like that, it would be historic. So you ought to look at some of the horrible statements, because there's never been statements like that.
Citing its effect on the budget, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul blocked an attempt to pass an extension of the September 11th Victim Compensation Fund. Senate Democrat Kirsten Gillibrand lashed out.
Enough of the political games. Our 9/11 first responders and the entire nation are watching to see if this body actually cares.
Puerto Rico's governor refuses to step down despite protests. Correspondent Juan Carlos Lopez says the outcry follows leaked group chats that reveal homophobic and sexist texts.
There was a leak of those private conversations that have caused an uproar and have led many to ask for Governor Rosselló to resign. It's a very controversial issue. What people we've spoke to are very upset.
Tracking election security, Microsoft says it's detected more than 740 infiltration attempts by nation-state actors in the past year. They were targeting U.S.-based political parties, campaigns, and other Democratic-focused organizations, including think tanks and other nonprofits. I'm Barbara Cusack.
We the people, the hardworking 99% of men and women, only have a voice when we join together as one and amplify our message. Now is the time for all Wisconsinites to join We the People and raise our voices. Do you feel like you are wasting your money funding unaccountable consultants, unresponsive candidates, and their campaigns? Help us do something that really matters. Please join We the People. Give what you can so we can support progressive radio stations like this one, using the public airwaves to educate Wisconsin about what we the people want for our state and remind Wisconsin's politicians that they work for us. Your donations to We the People at p4ppc.org, a registered, compliant IRS 501c3, will always be tax deductible, will always remain anonymous, and We the People pledge to spend 100% of donations educating Wisconsin on the issues our donors want discussed, giving individuals a voice in the collective message of We the People. Please give today at p4ppc.org. That's p4ppc.org. We the People need you.
Capitol Hill addressing robocalls as one woman told senators her grandmother took her own life after giving up her life savings to phone scammers.
My grandmother died with $69.
Angela Stanzik says that's all her 82-year-old grandmother Marjorie Jones had left.
It is extremely hard to imagine a loved one committing suicide, but she did.
Stanzik telling the Senate Aging Committee that Marjorie was a victim of elder fraud and had given up her life savings to phone scammers. They apparently told the senior citizen that she had won a large cash prize and all she had to do was pay the taxes and fees. That elder fraud ring was busted last year when then Attorney General Jeff Sessions announced over 1 million in the U.S. had been targeted. Joe Ramsey, Washington.
The 148th British Open is the first in Northern Ireland in 68 years, and Rory McIlroy is the betting favorite to capture the claret jug and end his 5-year drought in the majors. I'm Barbara Cusack.
Transit worker Local 998 knows that cuts to transit service are cuts to our community.
I would get paid like $7.25 doing the same things I'm doing out here, and I'm getting paid $10.
You know, I'm a disabled veteran, and, you know, this is my only way of getting around at this point.
You know, I got a car at the house, but my mama don't like driving all the time, or she got work and stuff, so I rely on the bus, you feel me?
There is no other way. If the bus wasn't there, I would have to call somebody for a ride, and, you know, I can't really afford to give people gas money for rides, and I don't have a vehicle, so these buses really help me out a lot.
Transit Worker Local 998 also know who is responsible for these cuts, and so does the county.
Milwaukee knows that Chris Abele is not on our side. Milwaukee has learned that pretty clearly, and he's not going to be protecting the poor of this city or the working class of this city, and we know that.
Call Chris Abele at 414-278-4338 and tell him you support your community and Transit Workers Local 998.
For WRRD and WTTN, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. There was a special election in Milwaukee yesterday for the aldermanic seat being vacated at the end of May by longtime Alderman Terry Witkowski. Scott Spiker and Patty Doherty will move on to the general election on August 13th. Spiker, the legislative assistant to Witkowski since 2015, filed papers to run before Witkowski announced his resignation. Doherty, the legislative assistant to Alderman Bob Donovan, was endorsed by Donovan, Mark Borkowski, and Tony Zielinski. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison. Tonight, a chance of rain with lows in the low 70s. Tomorrow, partly sunny with a chance of morning rain. A heat advisory in effect from noon tomorrow until 11 p.m. Friday. Highs tomorrow in the low 90s. You're listening to WRRD and WTTN.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we are sliding into the 5 o'clock hump day happy hour. Only 2 days to the weekend, buddy.
Yeah.
That's got to make you happy. I know you start counting down on Monday.
I figure I can roll through the next couple of days. We'll be fine.
Dominic, the phone lines, they're open. They're toll-free. We're going to get back to them in just a bit. 844-967-2789. We talked about the House tabling a resolution to impeach Donald Trump. Got 95 votes for the yes and a lot of votes for the no.
And the resolution specifically addressed his racist comments against the 4 congresswomen
as a rationale for impeachment. And I'm not saying that's not merited, but that is not a good enough reason, not according to Nancy Pelosi and the House leadership. So they tabled that resolution. And I was reading briefly from a letter that was drafted by Bill Barr, the Attorney General, and Wilbur Ross, a joint letter, and they sent it to Nancy Pelosi, Dom, because I would take note of the fact. What comes next on the House floor? A contempt vote against 2 sitting Trump cabinet members. I read from the Hill. Attorney General William Barr and Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross urged Speaker Nancy Pelosi on Wednesday to delay a House vote to hold them in contempt for not turning over congressionally subpoenaed information on the administration's initial efforts to add a citizenship question to the 2020 census. Now, what they say? You know, it's all tied up in court and executive privilege. And, of course, it's not going to be on the census anyway, so we aren't going to give you this information, Madam Speaker. That's effectively how they started their letter, Dom. But I read on from the Hill piece. In a letter sent shortly before the vote is set to be held, Barr and Ross called it unfortunate that the House, and again a quote, has chosen to go forward with an unjustified contempt vote regarding a citizenship question that, as you know, will not be asked on the 2020 census questionnaire. No harm, no foul, Dom? I read on. By taking this action, the House is both unnecessarily undermining interbranch comity, I read that to you, COMITY, and degrading the constitutional separation of powers and its own institutional integrity. You're disgracing the whole joint by holding me in contempt.
How dare you?
We urge that the House postpone the contempt vote in order to allow the constitutionally mandated accommodation process to continue, Barr and Ross wrote. And we respectfully remind the committee that the constitutionally required obligation to engage in good faith accommodation cuts both ways. The Hill has reached out to Pelosi's office for comment. I think she intends to give her comment through a vote of contempt on the House floor, Don.
Accommodation. Have they provided any information requested?
Well, some, but not nearly all, is my understanding, of course, because to do so, Don, would be to expose their own legal team, which they have sought to replace, in which the judges said, hell no, you can't do that. And, of course, there was that guy in North Carolina. You remember that former Republican leader that basically said, we're doing this because it benefits white Republicans.
Oh, the guy that died and his daughter found the data and turned it over to the lawyers on the court case?
Yeah, no small part. That was one of them. But that's not going to stop Bill Barr from doing Trump's will, which, of course, is to intimidate immigrant populations by asking a census question. And I love when the whitey righties defend themselves on this. You know, up until 1950, they asked this question. You mean when Joe McCarthy put it back on the census so we could red bait and chase possible communists? Are you a U.S. citizen? You mean those good old days? That's what we're hearkening back to, the Red Scare of the 1950s.
The good old days.
Either with us, Dom, or you're against us. America, lover or leaver.
When minorities knew their place.
And the rest of you go back to where you came from.
They love themselves, the 50s. Leave it to Beaver and all that.
You know what else the Attorney General of the United States probably did today, Dom? Or at least it was reported today. Directed the investigation of the Trump organization into payoffs of Stormy Daniels and who was the playmate? I forget. McDougal. Those payoffs that came from the account of the Trump organization, well, the investigation thereof has been closed.
Oh, really?
Quietly.
What?
And one must suspect at the direction of the Attorney General of the United States, Bill Barr.
Been closed. I mean, they were. That was part of a campaign finance violation. That
Dominic,
was hush
Michael
money.
Cohen is sitting in prison right now for the very violation that they have chosen, the Attorney General directing, federal authorities to stop investigating whether checks written on the Trump organization and signed not just by Donald Trump, but also by the eldest son,
Junior.
Don Jr., Fredo. Well, those $35,000 checks written out as hush money, they said everything short of because Stormy Daniels asked on the checks.
Right.
But that investigation, that has closed down with no charges filed.
That's news to me, Crudy. Justice is blind, I guess, in at least one eye. 844-967-2789.
And if it's not blind, Bill Barr's got a slingshot. He'll shoot the eye out.
Leave it to Beaver Dam. Dan, you are next. Thanks for calling today. Dan, what do you got for us?
Holy cow, now they're arguing the opposite side of the Constitution, and they're for the protections and following it. Oh, sweet. That means we're going to get the unredacted Mueller report the way we're supposed to.
No, come on.
To the committees, and, well, I'm confused. They're for the Constitution. They're against the Constitution. But neither of them clowns can spell Constitution. I'm also looking up the definition of white, which is the adjective free from color. Now, I understand free to mean like lack, void of, or devoid of, no color. So obviously, if you would identify yourself as being white, you are not a color.
Well, that representative, that Republican, Mike Kelly, that claimed he was a person of color because he was white, well, he's particularly lacking in pigmentation. He may be an albino. He literally might be just that white.
Come on, don't make fun of the White Walkers.
Unbelievable. Well, he could have went to, being discriminated against as people of Irish backgrounds were. That would have made some sense. But, boy, the color thing, that's a stretch even for these idiots.
Well, maybe Mike Kelly was black Irish.
Oh, sure he was. Sure, Scott's Irish. I get it. Okay. Fair enough. Unbelievable. Have a good one. Bye.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Dan. Man. Appreciate it. 844-967-2789.
Along that same topic, I've lost it. Never mind.
Let's take a break. I want to come back and discuss the war on drugs. I don't know if you people have been watching the news today. Big news in the war on drugs. You know, you can always depend on your federal government to make sure every single one of you is safe and sound, and you know, they're here to help, right? The war on drugs, right?
We won the war finally, right? We're going to celebrate victory, Dom?
It's over? Is it over? No, it's never over. It's too much funding to be over.
The war's over. Wormer dropped the big one.
844-967-2789. The war on drugs. Probably not what you're thinking, but come back with us and we'll get into it. We are the Devil's Advocates. We'll be right back.
Nothing is over until we decide it is.
You take drugs, Danny?
What's the difference a governor can make for Wisconsin? When it comes to healthcare, education, transportation, and relief for the middle class, the answer is a lot. That's why we're thanking Governor Tony Evers for his leadership in the state budget. Evers delivered the largest funding increase in a generation to fix Wisconsin roads and bridges. Thank you, Governor Evers, for hundreds of millions of dollars more for schools, a boost in tech college funding, and the first increase in special education funding in a decade. Thank you, Governor Evers, for raising the wages for personal healthcare workers, providing millions for rural healthcare, and a $500 million increase in health services for everyone in our state. And thank you, Governor Evers, for cutting taxes for working families. The Evers budget makes real progress, but there's more work to do. The Wisconsin Opportunity Coalition paid for this ad to thank Governor Tony Evers for his leadership and for getting results.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in the former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
The Devil's Advocates, tackling the issues you're not allowed to talk about at the dinner table.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube and Facebook, on Twitter at Devil Radio, and the phones open at 844-967-2789.
Dom, let's get back to the phones. I believe Muppet Sack Mark is next.
Mark, welcome to the show. What do you got?
I know you love when I call you that, Mark. Welcome back.
I just take it in stride. But I mean, that Kelly guy, I get a kick out of how he described himself as Anglo-Saxon and then Irish. And if I understand it correctly, the Irish might take a little bit of umbrage to that, comparison there, because they've been fighting against Anglo-Saxon English for how many hundreds of years.
Minor details, Mark. I mean, come on. He's white. He's a color. He's white. What's the big deal?
If you remember the movie Blazing Saddles, I won't say exactly what was said, but the Irish were one of the ones that they weren't going to take until the Chinese and the black guys said, nope, you got to take the Irish along with us. I mean, that's not the phrase that they use in the movie Blazing Saddles.
Right. Mel Brooks, one of the greatest.
It just floors me that how proud is this guy of his Irish ancestry if he makes a flub like that, because
it's not a flub, Mark. It's not a flub. It's a complete obtuse statement of an ignoramus. I mean, he's just an
ignoramus. I love that. It is. Yeah, they are ignoramuses. It just boggles the mind, and that.
Well, it's such an exposure of the white privilege, Mark, right? I mean, it doesn't even cross their mind that what they're saying, what they're doing, how they're reacting to this controversy, to this racism, is in fact perpetuating the problem. They don't even see it, Mark.
Yeah, and they think, oh, it's all done, it's all taken care of, and especially, I would have thought, 40 years ago when I was a kid, I would have thought some of this stuff would be done by now. I mean, that I was hoping it'd be done. But we had to keep fighting the same battle
40 years ago, man. Come on. That was barely loving Virginia then, man. I mean, at 40 years ago, they just got over the fact that, yes, in fact, there can be interracial marriage, and they had to have a lawsuit to do it because the states wouldn't do it, Mark. So 40 years ago, that's what we're coming out of. And people think, oh, well, we had a black president, so no more racism. Come on. Those people are still alive from 40 years ago. They also had children. And how do you think those children think? Well, hopefully they're a little more progressive, but, you're kind of a victim of your culture at times and your upbringing, Mark. Thanks for the call, man.
I didn't get a harumph out of that guy.
844-967-2789. Breaking news, Crudy. Big break in the war on drugs. As mentioned last segment, let's get to it. Now, you may be thinking I'm talking about, what's his name? Guzman? El Chapo? But I'm not. Also from the Washington Post today, America's largest drug companies saturated the country with 76 billion oxycodone and hydrocodone pain pills from 2006 through 2012 as the nation's deadliest drug epidemic spun out of control. According to previously undisclosed company data released as part of the largest civil action in U.S. history. So while El Chapo Guzman goes to jail for life and pays a $12+ billion fine, apparently, to the U.S. government, oh, yeah, well, maybe he should have been in Big Farm. I continue.
I'm not sure there's a jail that can keep Guzman, El Chapo. I mean, the guy's escaped how many times, Dom?
Twice. The information comes from a database maintained by the DEA that tracks the path of every single pain pill sold in the United States, from manufacturers and distributors to pharmacies in every town and city. The data provides an unprecedented look at the surge of legal pain pills that fueled the prescription opioid epidemic, which has resulted in nearly 100,000 deaths from 2006 through 2012.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
In just 6 companies distributed 75% of the pills during the period. McKesson Corp, Walgreens, Cardinal Health, AmerisourceBergen, CVS, and Walmart, according to the analysis of the database by the Washington Post. 3 companies manufactured 88% of the opioids. SpecGX, a subsidiary of McCall and Actavis Pharma, and Par Pharmaceutical, and a subsidiary of Endo Pharmaceuticals. Purdue, let's not forget Purdue Pharma. The plaintiffs allege sparked the epidemic in the 90s with its introduction of OxyContin, its version of oxycodone, which ranked 4th among manufacturers with about 3% of the market. The volume of the pills handled by the company skyrocketed as the epidemic surged, increasing about 51% from $8.4 billion in 2006 to $12.6 billion in 2012. By contrast, doses of morphine, a well-known treatment for severe pain, averaged slightly more than 500 million during this period. The 10 companies, along with a dozen others, are now being sued in federal court in Cleveland by nearly 2,000 cities, towns, and counties, alleging that they conspired to flood the nation with opioids. The companies, in turn, have blamed the epidemic on overprescription by doctors and pharmacies and on customers who abuse the drugs.
Didn't they incentivize doctors to overprescribe those very drugs? The drug manufacturers, weren't they the ones offering incentives to the doctors?
Great deals if you can get them. The companies say they were working to supply the needs of patients with legitimate prescriptions desperate for pain relief. The database reveals that each company knew about the number of pills it was shipping and dispensing and precisely when they were aware of the volumes year by year, town by town. They knew. In case after case, the companies allowed the drugs to reach the streets of communities large and small, despite persistent red flags that those pills were being sold in an apparent violation of federal law and diverted to the black market, according to the lawsuit. Plaintiffs have long accused drug manufacturers and wholesalers of fueling the opioid epidemic by producing and distributing billions of pain pills while making billions of dollars. What a world! We can buy stock at our drug dealers. The companies have paid more than $1 billion in fines to the Justice Department and the FDA over opioid-related issues and hundreds of millions more to settle state lawsuits. But the previous cases addressed only a portion of the problem, never allowing the public to see the size and scope of the behavior underlying the epidemic. Monetary settlements by the companies were accompanied by agreements that kept such information hidden. Of course! Now listen to this. The drug companies, along with the DEA and the Justice Department, have fought furiously against the public release of the database, the automation of reports and consolidated order system known as ARCOS. ARCOS, A-R-C-O-S. That's pretty close to narcos. The companies argue that the release of the transactional data could give competitors an unfair advantage in the marketplace. The Justice Department agreed that the release of the information could compromise ongoing DEA investigations. Until now, the litigation has proceeded in unusual secrecy. Many filings and exhibits in the case have been sealed under judicial protective order. The secrecy finally lifted after the Post and HD Media, which publishes the Charleston Gazette-Mail in West Virginia. Of course, West Virginia has a huge problem. They waged a year-long battle for access to documents and data from the case. On Monday evening, U.S. District Judge Dan Polster removed the protective order for part of the ARCOS database. Lawyers for local government suing the companies hailed the release of the data. The data provides statistical insights that help pinpoint the origins and spread of the opioid epidemic, an epidemic that thousands of communities across the country argue was both sparked and inflamed by opioid manufacturers, distributors, and pharmacies. Paul Farrell Jr. of West Virginia, co-lead counsel for the plaintiffs, said. In statements emailed to the Post on Tuesday, drug distributors stressed that the data would not exist unless they'd accurately reported shipments and questioned why the government had not done more to address the crisis. For decades, the DEA has had exclusive access to this data, which can identify the total volume of controlled substances being ordered pharmacy by pharmacy across the country. McKesson spokeswoman Kristen Chasen said. A DEA spokeswoman declined comment on Tuesday due to ongoing litigation. 100,000 people dead in 6 years from 76 billion oxycodone and hydrocodone pills. They knew they were going to the black market. Crudy, you and I know they were going to the black market. But Guzman, life in jail for them. Big farm, big profits. That's what they get.
Life in jail plus 30 years. Come back with us. We've got breaking news on the contempt vote in the House. We'll update you there. A lot of chastisement of the president, but apparently Trump going to a rally tonight. Well, apparently, Dom, he thinks he's winning. Come back with us. More winning on the other side, more Devil's Advocates, more of your phone calls, 844-967-2789.
Want to be more presidential? Tweet the Devil's Advocates at Devil Radio.
Life is pain, Highness. Anyone who says differently is selling something.
People selling people to people.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
So thank you.
If you're like a lot of companies, you know you need IT, but you aren't sure where to start. That's where Five Nines comes in. Hi, I'm Todd Stryker, President and CEO. For almost 15 years, Five Nines has been providing IT solutions to companies just like yours. We'll show you the solutions that are right for your business and give you the roadmap to success in the future. Find us at fivenines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
Free and equal education is and has always been a cornerstone to this nation. Yet our public school systems, once the envy of the world, has never faced more scrutiny than right now. Caught between political bickering and big business cash grabs, our schools are under attack, and the people that stand to lose the most are our children. Join Dr. Tim Slecker for Busted Pencils Radio. Educated educators talking education. Tuesday nights at 7, right here on WRRD 1510 AM, Milwaukee.
You are listening to WRRD 1510 AM, Waukesha, Milwaukee. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
County Executive Chris Avery has declared racism a public health crisis, but he cuts the bus route for mostly black families driven mostly by black drivers.
Milwaukee knows that Chris Abley is not on our side. Milwaukee has learned that pretty clearly, and he's not going to be protecting the poor of this city or the working class of this city, and we know that.
Call Chris Abley at 414-278-4338. Tell him you support and transit workers local 998, and ask him why is he making this public health crisis worse.
We the people, the hardworking 99% of men and women, only have a voice when we join together as one and amplify our message. Now is the time for all Wisconsinites to join We the People and raise our voices. Do you feel like you are wasting your money funding unaccountable consultants, unresponsive candidates, and their campaigns? Help us do something that really matters. Please join We the People. Give what you can so we can support progressive radio stations like this one, using the public airwaves to educate Wisconsin about what we the people want for our state and remind Wisconsin's politicians that they work for us. Your donations to We the People at p4ppc.org, a registered, compliant IRS 501c3, will always be tax deductible, will always remain anonymous, and We the People pledge to spend 100% of donations educating Wisconsin on the issues our donors want discussed, giving individuals a voice in the collective message of We the People. Please give today at p4ppc.org. That's p4ppc.org. We the People need you.
Hi, I'm Kelly, and my family owns Madison Liquidators, a company with sustainability as our business model. We are excited to announce that we are moving into a bigger, nicer location, allowing us to serve you better with expanded inventories of both new and used office furniture. Right now, we will give you a great deal because we would much rather move any of our current inventory into your office than our new space. Check out our complete inventory online at madisonliquidators.com or come make a deal off Pleasant View Road in Middleton before moving day.
For WRRD and WTTN, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. In the election of 2018, Democrats in the state assembly received 53% of all votes cast, but won only 36 of the 99 assembly seats. Opponents of gerrymandering held a news conference at the Capitol yesterday, vowing to keep the pressure on lawmakers to reform the process of drawing legislative districts. And PolitiFact Wisconsin checked Donald Trump's claim that he won Wisconsin early in the evening on Election Day in 2016. Trump made the statement when he visited an aerospace company in Milwaukee last week. The Associated Press, which is relied upon by news organizations for election results, didn't call the state for Trump until 1:29 a.m. PolitiFact rated Trump's claim as false. You're listening to WRRD and WTTN.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, the Hump Day Happy Hour. It continues, Dom, and we've got some breaking news to update the audience with. According to the Washington Post, my source, breaking House votes to hold Attorney General Bill Barr, Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross in criminal contempt for failing to comply with subpoenas on the 2020 census. The House Oversight Committee had sought documents from the Attorney General William Barr and Commerce Secretary William Ross on the Trump administration's plan to add a citizenship question to the 2020 census. Hard for me to say for the third time today. While the House-passed resolution holds the men in criminal contempt, it's unlikely the Justice Department would take action against Barr and Ross, considering Bill Barr heads the Justice Department.
I arrest myself in the name of myself.
I doubt that will happen. Didn't he tease Nancy Pelosi? Got the handcuffs, Nancy. And she did tell him, well, the Sergeant of Arms is here. 844-967-2789. The Attorney General of the United States, the top cop, held in criminal contempt by Congress today. And here's the other issue with Bill Barr. We addressed briefly. I've got an update from the Raw story, originally sourced by Alternet, Cody Fenwick. Judge blocks efforts to conceal details in Trump campaign crimes case as Bill Barr's DOJ mysteriously closes the probe. Well, we talked about this. Let me read from the Raw story. A federal judge confirmed on Wednesday that the Justice Department has ended its investigation into campaign finance crimes committed by former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen, indicating that no one else will face charges in the case. But Judge William Pauley also announced that over the government's objections, he will make many of the underlying documents in the case public without requested redactions. Be careful what you wish for, Bill Barr, because this case would have been tied up in the courts for some period of time, right?
Right.
But now that you close the case and the judge isn't agreeing with your redaction request, effectively this evidence, well, it's out there in the court of public opinion. I read on. The case stemmed from Cohen's efforts during the 2016 campaign to secure hush money payments for two women who said they had affairs with Donald Trump. Since investigators determined these payments were done in order to help secure Trump's victory, the spending counted as campaign contributions that were never recorded and were in fact illegally concealed. The Trump organization, Cohen has said, helped repay him for the cost of the hush money while disguising the payment falsely as a legal retainer. We talked about the $35,000 a month checks, right? Down my read on. Cohen implicated Trump directly in the crime, saying the then candidate coordinated with him and directed him to make the payments. There is even a public record of the pair seeming to discuss one of the payments. Donald Trump Jr., too, may be implicated in the crime because he allegedly signed some of the repayment checks to Cohen. For these and other crimes to which he pleaded guilty, Cohen has been sentenced to 3 years in prison. But neither Trump nor no one else apparently involved in the scheme appears to be vulnerable to charges in the case. As a sitting president, of course, Trump could not be charged with the crime under current Justice Department policy, Bill Barr's current policy, regardless of the evidence. Such a policy wouldn't protect the president's son. That's what Bill Barr's for, or anyone else involved in the company, though. Think about the chief operating officer. What's his name? Weisselberg? Well, apparently he's been given immunity for limited testimony as well, but apparently no charges against him. So clear the decks for Trump.
Wow.
I mean, we've got the evidence. We've seen the public evidence that Trump and Trump Jr. signed checks, $35,000, concealing payoffs to porn stars to keep it hidden from the American people immediately before a presidential election.
So is this now precedent? I mean, can we just now expect that any kind of payoffs are totally legitimate now?
Dominic, I'm going to read from this piece. So the public has been left with many questions about the case.
Yeah. Please continue.
Would the president have been charged with any related crimes were he not in office? Why weren't charges brought against any other people who appear to have been involved? And was Attorney General Bill Barr, who was chosen by Trump to protect him in the special counsel's investigation and has shown a clear desire to exonerate the president from any wrongdoing, what was his involvement in the final decisions? And additionally, why weren't any Trump Organization officials questioned by investigators in the Southern District of New York if a recent CNN report is correct? We may yet get some answers to these questions. Judge Pauley issued an order Wednesday noting that the government has confirmed that the investigation is no longer ongoing, but it asked that some of the underlying materials related to Cohen's case remain sealed to protect third-party privacy interests. Pauley didn't buy it. Here's what the judge said. The weighty public ramifications of the conduct described in the campaign finance portions warrant disclosure. Moreover, the involvement of most of the relevant third-party actors is now public knowledge, undercutting the need for continued secrecy. On balance, the strong presumption of public access to search warrants and search warrant materials under the common law far outweighs the weakened privacy interests at play here. He also argued the matter is of national importance and that it is time that every American has an opportunity to scrutinize the materials. Well, that wasn't Bill Barr's play, was it, Tom? The materials will be unsealed tomorrow morning, he ruled. He allowed that there may be a few limited redactions. Meanwhile, Trump's lawyers are in a celebratory mood. We are pleased that the investigation surrounding these ridiculous campaign finance allegations is now closed. Jay Sekulow, the president's attorney, said Wednesday, according to the USA Today, we have maintained from the outset that the president never engaged in campaign finance violations. Don't look at the evidence. Don't believe your lying eyes. And please burn the evidence if you would, Judge.
I mean,
sounds like the John Doe too. It sounds like the corruption.
Fire the prosecutor, burn the evidence. Nothing to see here. This is how we roll. How am I not supposed to be cynical when I hear things like this? Now, granted, I know
I'm not telling you not to be cynical, Dom. I've known you your whole life. You've been cynical most of it.
But it doesn't lend justification to it, Crudy? I mean, come on.
Sure, absolutely.
We have lots of other issues to go after this president on, lots of probably bigger fish to fry as it pertains to the criminality of this racist, fraudulent president. But that being said, how is this possible? Now, if we have another politician who pays somebody off, are they going to also be able to get away with it? Regardless of the reason. I mean, these are specifically about campaign finance violations influencing the election. Now, is this going to be able to continue? Republicans or Democrats payoffs to porn stars or to gangsters or to Russians or to whatever thing you're into is now going to be okay. Because that's what I'm hearing from this. And certainly William Barr is the reason for this. But it's not the only thing, Crudy. I want to throw this one out there as well. William Barr, he had influence in other issues. And here's from the Washington Post. Justice Department will not charge police in connection with Eric Garner's death. Remember this one?
Guy selling loose cigarettes that got choked out?
Yes. Engaging in free market capitalism, choked out by the police on camera, begging for his life, pleading that he cannot breathe, choked out. From the Post. The Justice Department will not bring federal charges against any police officers. There are lots of them standing around watching, involved in the death of Eric Garner, a 43-year-old black man whose recorded takedown in New York in 2014 helped coin a rallying cry for those concerned about law enforcement treatment of minorities. Authorities announced on Tuesday. For Garner's supporters, the decision is disappointing, albeit expected. End to a case that has languished for years as various components of the Justice Department disagreed about what to do. The case was one of the first to spark the Black Lives Matter movement and draw attention to police abuse of minorities, but it ended as most others do, with prosecutors offering condolences in lieu of indictments and distraught family members left feeling that justice was not served. In a news conference on Tuesday, Garner's mother, Gwen Carr, said the Justice Department has failed us and called on the New York City Police Commissioner to fire Daniel Pantaleo, the officer shown on video wrapping his arms around Garner's neck. Here's what Mom said. 5 years ago, my son said, "I can't breathe," 11 times. And today, we can't breathe because they have let us down. Prosecutors, including Dick Donahue, the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York, delivered the news to Garner's family in a tense meeting Tuesday morning, then held a news conference to explain their decision. Donahue said that after years of debate, Attorney General William Barr ultimately decided that prosecutors had insufficient evidence to demonstrate that Pantaleo used objectively unreasonable force to willfully use more force than thought necessary, 2 elements necessary to win a conviction on federal civil rights charges. He called Garner's death a tragedy, but said prosecutors could not prove it was a federal crime. Thanks for that, Bill Barr. Once again, putting us at nothing to see here. Nope, no evidence. Another black man dead for no reason on camera, selling frickin' cigarettes.
Dominic, the Raw story reporting about 2 minutes ago, Sarah K. Burris, former federal prosecutor, says Southern District of New York may be waiting to indict Trump when he's out of office. Different conspiracy theory on this dropping of the case, for the campaign finance violations, the paying off the porn stars. Former federal prosecutor Glenn Kirshner explained why the Southern District of New York might be holding back on the campaign finance charges. President Donald Trump signed multiple hush money payments as president of the United States. You recall that, right, Dom?
I do.
Kirshner said that he reread Judge William Pauley's order from Wednesday to understand what the Southern District of New York prosecutors said about the documents being sealed or not. Pauley said that the government represents that it has concluded aspects of the investigation that justify the continued sealing of the portions of the materials related to Cohen's campaign finance violations. He explained that most people are reading that and saying the investigation is concluded, so there won't be any further charges brought, but that may not be the case. Here's a quote. I think we need to pull the two things apart. Mind you, I'm not saying this is an indication that there will be charges brought, but here's what I can tell you. When prosecutors look at a case that potentially involves multiple conspirators, you have one overarching goal. We want to try to bring a case that charges all of those conspirators in one case to be tried in one trial. Why? Because you don't want to break it up. Try 2, try 3 co-conspirators while the others wait in the wings and get a complete preview of your case and your evidence during the first trial. It's already known that Michael Cohen is guilty of campaign finance violations at the urging, assistance, and benefit of the president, he went on. So here's another quote, Tom. We have some indication there may be exposure by Don Jr. and Alan Weisselberg on the money side and the check writing side, he continued. Let me hypothetically pose. If there's a conspiracy with all 4 of these people, and we know the Southern District cannot charge the president right now because the Office of Legal Counsel memo says you can't indict a sitting president, then it could be the Southern District of New York has an interest in bringing one unified conspiracy case against all 4 possible co-conspirators the day Trump leaves office. He clarified he's not sure if it would happen or will happen, but it could be what the prosecutors in this case are doing here. Otherwise, Tom, there is no freaking justice, right? We know he's guilty. We've seen the checks that Trump signed, that Don Jr. signed, the falsifying of payoffs to Michael Cohen, that Michael Cohen, the reimbursement of Michael Cohen after Michael Cohen paid off.
Well, it's
Stormy Daniels
not just that, but follow that up the line. I mean, the money came out
of the direction of Donald Trump.
Yes, but the money, the direction of Donald Trump came out of the Trump organization, right? Now, how do you think they booked that expense? Right, so now
legal fees.
Right, so now they're falsifying tax returns, right?
Sure, they are.
And now, can you then pierce the corporate veil and go and see everything else? Now, man, I'm down with the cup is half full. As I said before, there are plenty of things to go after this president on, and I hope he's right, because otherwise, what do we have to look forward to? We can just all expect to get away with paying off all of our dirty deeds the day before the election, and that's just totally cool with everybody.
Well, it worked out so far for Epstein, and it worked out so far for Donald Trump. Apparently, Dom, if you're successful being, paying off the porn stars, paying off the, little girls that you've raped, well, success is you never have to pay any sort of actual public price.
Success is never having to say, I'm sorry.
For, let's call it your, private indiscretion.
Is that what you call raping little kids? Private indiscretions?
Well, those are just allegations at this point against not only Epstein, but also the president. But these other allegations, these are supported by evidence. The president clearly broke campaign finance laws. Michael Cohen is sitting in prison for the act of breaking campaign finance laws
for
in
Trump.
The direction of Donald Trump. Right. So we know he's guilty. We've seen the evidence. One guy's sitting in prison. So one has to hope. Southern District of New York, they're counting down the days till Trump loses in November of 2020. By January of 2021, about the time Scott Walker's looking at taking a new job, Donald Trump will be looking at federal indictments and perhaps a trip to prison. If there is justice in this world, in this universe, that will be the case, Tom. But I'm not going to hold my breath.
Keep hoping.
844-967-2789. Keep dialing. We got one last segment to take your phone calls today. Dial them up. Light them up. We'll be right back.
Stealing money back when he was fiercely loyal. In this transaction that was just uncovered, he kept $37,000. You can't obstruct a crime that was never committed.
If we had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so.
But there's been no collusion, no obstruction.
If we had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so.
Transit worker Local 998 knows that cuts to transit service are cuts to our community.
I would get paid like $7.25 doing the same things I'm doing out here, and I'm getting paid $10.
You know, I'm a disabled veteran, and, you know, this is my only way of getting around at this point.
No, I got a car at the house, but my mama don't like driving all the time, or she got work and stuff, so I rely on the bus, you feel me?
There is no other way. If the bus wasn't there, I would have to call somebody for a ride, and, you know, I can't really afford to give people gas money for rides, and I don't have a vehicle, so these buses really help me out a lot.
Transit worker Local 998 also know who is responsible for these cuts, and so does the county.
Milwaukee knows that Chris Abley is not on our side. Milwaukee has learned that pretty clearly, and he's not going to be protecting the poor of this city or the working class of this city, and we know that.
Call Chris Abley at 414-278-4338 and tell him you support your community and Transit Workers Local 998.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Hi, I'm Kelly, and my family owns Madison Liquidators, a company with sustainability as our business model. We are excited to announce that we are moving into a bigger, nicer location, allowing us to serve you better with expanded inventories of both new and used office furniture. Right now, we will give you a great deal because we would much rather move any of our current inventory into your office than our new space. Check out our complete inventory online at madisonliquidators.com or come make a deal off Pleasant View Road in Middleton before moving day.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but they are kind of a big deal.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Last segment of the day. It's so hard to say goodbye, but we'll be back tomorrow, 3 to 6. In the meantime, we'll take your calls at 844-967-2789. Annie from Watertown, you are next. Thanks for calling, Annie. What do you got for us?
Well, I had something I thought maybe you'd know about, but then before then, I just wanted to say ignorami. I'm talking about ignoramuses. Is it ignorami?
The plural of ignoramuses.
Yeah, you wonder. I don't know. Seems like something we got to use frequently.
Much like succubus, succubi.
Yeah. And then that you had a caller talking about 40 years ago, and honestly, 40 years ago, I never thought things would be the way they. In fact, I think maybe I'll have that to put on my tombstone if I have one. I thought things would be better by now.
Right.
I never thought it would be this bad, Annie, under Donald Trump's leadership. I never thought he would be as purposefully chaotic and destructive as he has been.
It's almost like he's working to, bring down this country to the benefit of an adversary or something, Annie.
But he's brought out all the things that are there. But there was something that everybody keeps playing over and over, the Kellyanne saying, what's your heritage, or however she put it.
What's your ethnicity?
Your ethnicity. But she said a whole bunch of stuff, and I don't know where I saw it, but I think before she said that, what she said before then was a hell of a lot more hair-raising, and I've only seen it once, and I keep waiting to see it again. And it's like, holy moly! You know?
She said a couple times referring
on
to
the other thing.
The dark underbelly of the American people, something of the effect. But the fact that she used color tones, being a very white person, the whole dark underbelly in the context of them being somehow anti-American, others from elsewhere they should return to. And then, of course, she turns and asks the reporter, what's your ethnicity?
Go ahead,
They
Brian.
just represent a very dark element in this country that seems to not respect the military, not respect the veterans, not vote for humanitarian aid. Why is that?
Very dark element, and she's been on this phrase a couple of times, Annie, also referring to them as the dark underbelly.
Yeah, where did she all of a sudden throw in? Somebody else did that too. Throw in the military thing, where hey, guess what? Most of the people in the military are these dark people.
Well, and Sean Duffy today, Wisconsin's own, is denying the fact that he called the squad anti-American. Well, he was just, repeating the framing of Donald Trump. It's not his words that he used on the House floor.
Oh, what a crock. Come on.
The Duffmeister, he needs to
He can't deny
delineate.
saying anti-American. He said anti-American. Now, whether or not someone else said that or not is absolutely irrelevant to the fact that those words came out of his mouth.
You're mischaracterizing him by quoting him directly from his own words on the House floor.
On the House floor, I believe those are now in the record. Let's keep going. Thank you for the call, Annie. Jake from a big and wet place, Milwaukee. Welcome, Jake. What do you got?
Hey, Jake.
It's tremendously big and tremendously wet.
Pretty good. What's going on?
You're going on. What's going on, man?
I think we should thank Donald Trump. He gave us an awesome joke to play with. Scott Walker in charge of scholars. I mean, that is the funniest, most hilarious things ever. I mean, the people that he's going to have to work with, they're going to hate his guts because he is such an idiot. I mean,
like the rest of us do.
Yeah. I mean, really, they're like, Scott Walker, that guy even got kicked out of college, for gosh sakes. He had all this time to complete a degree, and he hasn't even gotten an honorary degree, just for being governor either. I mean, Trump,
he did from Trump University, I believe.
But, you guys remember when Trump let him sit in the president's office chair and everything?
Oh, he was so excited. They had the same color tie on and everything.
Yeah, but it was a total joke because, he was just demeaning Walker, and Walker, being like a puppy dog, was just taking it. This is the same thing. I mean, Trump's a lot of things, but he likes to be cruel to other people, so this is exactly what he's doing to Walker. I mean, no one takes it seriously.
All right, thank you, Jake. Let's get one more in. Wisco Paul, want to give you the last 45 seconds. What do you got for us?
Thanks for taking my call, Devils. Now, I'll be upfront about this. I grew up in a union family, Roosevelt Democrats. My dad worked his whole life in Madison in a union shop. And, of course, my whole life I worked in a union shop until I retired. But I have to say this. The Trump administration is a dumpster fire. It's totally corrupt. And I don't know where this ends, Devils, with the economy tanking, or maybe we'll get lucky and it's a blue wave. But I was upfront about my where I came from, all union people, but this is the worst I've ever seen in my life, and I'm retired, and thanks for taking my call.
Paul, appreciate you calling. Appreciate everyone listening. Thank you, Matt Rothschild, our fine guest from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. And one bit of good news at the end of the day.
What's that?
Scott Walker has officially closed his campaign finance account.
What?
An account over the course of his career, at least gubernatorial career, where he raised $118 million, and that's not even counting the $34 million he blew in his failed presidential campaign. Thanks for listening. Stick around. Unheard of. Brandy Grayson is next.
What's the difference a governor can make for Wisconsin? When it comes to healthcare, education, transportation, and relief for the middle class, the answer is a lot. That's why we're thanking Governor Tony Evers for his leadership.